And we are getting set for Battle Royale week here for the 2019 season of the Pro Chess League. We're going to dive deeply into exactly what Battle Royale week means here in just a moment. But first, of course, I have to welcome here my co-host, Anna Rudolph. She is back at it with us here, sporting a new hat. I'm not sure which one that is, but, you know, stylish either way.
Yeah, this one, I think it says be your best version or something like that. Yeah. The kind of thing.
Before we get
Hello,
into
everyone.
exactly-
My favorite boss.
Well, thank you. And the Battle Royale week is going to be super intense today, and this is going to be a lot of fun. And you're going to get to see the matchups that you wait for all year, where one top player takes on a ton of other top players, and the same with the board fours. We get to kind of see who's the best of the board fours on all these teams, and it's going to be an epic throwdown. But for now, we're going to dive in and remind you very quickly how you can get involved when the Pro Chess League is offline. First thing, everybody should be playing fantasy. If you're not playing the fantasy chess competition, you are missing an opportunity to take $10,000 cash directly from the commissioner's pocket. We might as well rename it to the commissioner bounty. We know that Anna tries very hard to take that cash away from Greg every week, right?
Normally I do, but today he is lucky because I was traveling back to Santiago here in Chile. So Greg Shahade, you're lucky today, but next time I'm going for you. But you guys, everyone else should try to win the $10,000 right from Greg Shahade's pocket. Paid in donuts as well if you wish.
That's a $10,000 weekly prize, so it's not something that's for the whole season. Every week you have an opportunity to fill out a perfect bracket and take home that cash. When Anna and I are not live, or one of our many other great hosts this year during the 2019 season, there are other ways to follow your favorite content. And our newly launched YouTube channel, you can actually go to youtube.com/ProChessLeague or click on that link right there, the go.chess.com PCL YouTube channel. International Master David Pruis is bringing us really in-depth content, stuff that's designed to make you a better chess player. Of course, also highlight the cool things going on in the league. But if you're not subscribing currently to our YouTube channel, you should definitely do that, because that is a way to follow content when Twitch isn't live. The other way you can follow content when not necessarily Twitch, but when our official shows are not live, every week we have a halfway highlights show. International Master Levy Rosman and the one and only Bigfoot throw down there and review all the most interesting games and give you a bit of a preview in terms of what's going on with the league. So for all those of you wondering what's going on today, Anna, it's time to dive into exactly what this Battle Royale format is. It's a round robin of every board. So essentially all board 1 players throw down against board 1. Board 2 throws down against board 2, and etc., right? There are cash prizes, individual cash prizes for the players and the teams. And there's also the format overall. Of course, we've talked about why it's important for every team to win every week. There are points specifically for winning first in this particular format. So maybe even if your team hasn't won some of the traditional format where board 1 plays board 1, board 2, board 3, board 4, here they have an opportunity to prove that they are indeed the best board 1 or the best board 2 or whatever that is. So I don't even know where to start on it. There's so many great players here. We've got Carauna, Nakamura, Shankland, some big names there on the board 1. You've got Akobian, Hansen, Naroditsky. What board are you most looking forward to? I mean, the obvious answer is the big names, but there's also other boards where we have so many big names in the PCL throwing down.
Yeah, I agree with you, Danny. It's going to be epic. On board 1, we have 4 of the top 5 players of the United States of America. Wesley So is not playing today just because there's a round in Gibraltar. Hikaru Nakamura, who is also a participant of the Trademark Gibraltar Chess Festival, he's so dedicated to his team that he's actually going to play right now. And it's quite late in Gibraltar, I can tell you.
Yep.
On board 2, Eric Hansen, of course, lots of fans of the chess bars are here. On board 3, I'm really curious how Andrew Tang will do today. And board 4 also has some really interesting names. And as you said already, it's only board 1s against board 1s, board 2s against board 2s, lots of matchups where the players have similar ratings. Board 4, of course, John Bartholomew is one of the fan favorites.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think John Bartholomew definitely the most easily recognizable name right there, of course, known as Finns or Team Scandi, depending on whatever you're into. I saw he gave a diamond membership to a username called Shrimp Scandi, so that looked pretty cool. But Benjamin Bach right there, Andrew Tang, of course, also the Penguin GM, very well known. Dan Fernandez becoming a more regular name this year for the Miami champions. So Yeah, it's going to be awesome, and I can't wait to see what players do when they don't have to stress as much about, all right, I'm playing a board 4, but next round I've got Hikaru Nakamura, and I'm only 2,400, right? That's not an easy task. Here, everybody is playing somebody within their range of beating. I mean, in theory, even if you look at the lowest rated players on board 4, there are definitely players within that group that they're capable of pulling upsets against. So, makes it super exciting, and also makes it super impressive if and when a team wins this type of format. And if we look at the standings there, what will happen if a team wins it? Well, we may see a shakeup after Battle Royale week. We see the Montreal Chess Bras sitting atop the Atlantic Division after they beat the St. Louis Archbishops. I did not have the pleasure of calling that match last week. Really upset about it, but anyway, super exciting. I think that the Atlantic Division has a lot of attention as some of the biggest, most well-known names, but also the Australia Kangaroos, the Norway Gnomes, and the Tbilisi Gentlemen all lead their divisions respectively. So before we go live, Anna, let's remind everybody what the schedule is. A lot of pregame here, a lot of info. Man, we have a lot to talk about in the Pro Chess League, right? Wow.
Yeah, always.
The schedule is what you see right there. As you know, now we are hosting our first Battle Royale week. That is today, January 29th. February 1st will be the next matchup. And you can plan your calendars around it, including the finals. We're getting closer and closer to an announcement in regards to where the Pro Chess League finals will be this year in terms of what city, and then the surrounding details all will come around with that. So a lot of balls in motion, I can say, as somebody who's helping to juggle some of them. It's not easy right now, but we're hoping to have an announcement very soon, so people can really get excited and mark their calendars for what's going to happen on May 4th and 5th. But you can still plan your weekend around that anyway, right, Anna? I know you'll be there, so that's
I'm
great.
hoping to make it, but you will need to tell me to where shall I book my tickets. Danny's keeping it very secretive. Even I don't know the location of the Pro Chess League finals, but do mark the dates. May the 4th and the 5th. May the 4th be with you was my really hard one from the other day, but you gotta remember May the 4th and the 5th. You gotta be there.
You're right. It's easy to remember because May the 4th be with May the 4th. It's going to be hard for us not to have a lot of awkward puns that weekend. I will do my best.
Yeah, I know.
Well, we also want to remind everybody where you can get at the league and follow it when it isn't live. We'll be updating that image next week with our official YouTube channel as well. But as we said, you can follow us on Twitch, Twitter, go to Facebook, give us a like, and you can follow all the games by simply typing that command in the main window. Log into chess.com, use your free account, go to chess.com/live and type that command. You'll have it all. Reminder, of course, you can also visit our merch stores and get anything that you think you might look good in or bad in, right? Whatever you're into. So you can buy whatever you want. But last thing maybe we should do is remind everybody of the prizes of this year. I mean, this is kind of a general thing to just take note of, but we've got first place, second place. I mean, a lot going down actually in this particular week. If you look over on the right side, the Battle Royale prize week. So I'm pretty excited for that and to see how the players do. But Anna, your thoughts?
I'm just so excited about the Battle Royale. It's the first time that we are hosting a Battle Royale. We did have Super Saturday and Super Sunday in the previous editions, but this is a slightly different format. And as you have already pointed out, there's lots of points to actually earn today. So right. The teams that are at the bottom at the moment in our group, for instance, the Miami Champions, the London Lions, the Minnesota Blizzard, but San Francisco Mechanics, Miami Champions, and London Lions, they have only scored 19.5 points so far in 3 weeks. For those three teams, I think it's really important to try to finish at the top of the standings today, because that could change the entire division for them. If they perform badly, well, it's almost sure that they will not be in the knockout part of the Pro Chess League. As for the Montreal Chess Bras, I think for them to keep their first place, they also should do their best. So that's why we see such a stacked lineup. Every team has basically brought their best players for today's show.
Yeah, and one of the things that we should just mention, because it's one of the more exciting parts of the format, is that you have all the divisions going up against each other. So of course, I think we kind of made that obvious when we said the top boards are playing each other. Hikaru Nakamura, Fabiano Caruana, Sam Shanklin, but maybe people forget that Fabiano Caruana, playing for the St. Louis Archbishops, he's in the Atlantic Division, right? And Sam Shanklin and Hikaru Nakamura are in the Pacific for their teams, the Seattle Sluggers and the San Francisco Mechanics. So again, it's just a really fun way, almost like I don't want to call it any kind of all-star event because we actually have one of those. It's a different event, but this is just an event where you get to see the teams cross division, like interleague play, I guess, would be a good comparison to sports that, again, that's a baseball reference, and nobody watches baseball. The ratings tell us that, so I don't even know what I'm talking about. Nobody watches baseball anymore.
Everybody watches Fortnite nowadays.
Everyone watches Fortnite, that's right, and they don't have an interleague. They have one league, and, Ninja's on top, I guess. But anyway.
Yeah. And Hikaru's going to be there.
Ninja
Hikaru,
and
by the
Hikaru,
way,
yeah.
is streaming as he's playing, so I'm going to go and open Hikaru's channel so that I can be observing his facial expressions, Grandmaster Hikaru Nakamura, as of the regular streamers of chess.com, and I'm very happy to see that today he's not playing, but he's still streaming. As you know, he's streaming his Pro Chess League games.
Well, you said it. I mean, Hikaru is staying up late in Gibraltar, right? For those of you who aren't currently following Grandmaster Hikaru's commentary, you can do that. Go to twitch.tv/GMHikaru, but he'll be giving his own perspective as he tries to lead the Sluggers to a Battle Royale victory, and it will get late for him. I don't do the math. I try to avoid math at all costs, but I'm pretty sure it'll get really late for him in Gibraltar by the time this event is done. So we see him using one of his specialty weapons here for online chess. He's playing this knight f3 with b3 ready, right? This is Hikaru's game versus Salim Saleh, who is also known as Arabic Falcon, if you follow chess.com usernames.
Today, the Arabic Falcon, aka Salim Saleh, is making his debut today for the Montreal Chess Bros, as their usual top board, Ivan Šarić, is participating in Gibraltar, so he decided that he couldn't combine the two, not like Hikaru, who is in for everything.
Which is Hikaru is doing it even while he's in Gibraltar, right? But this will be an interesting storyline, right? The Chess Bros are leading the Atlantic Division on a right. I mean, they just came off this huge victory over the Archbishop, so maybe they feel they can afford it. But I think, along with Eric Hansen, who's certainly the face of the Chess Bra, enterprise, Ivan Šarić has really been the key to their success this year, right? So this is the first time the Chess Bros are playing a match this season without their fearless leader on board one. So that will be a storyline. We have to see how they do today.
I completely agree, and we shall see if they can afford to play without Ivan Šarić. Salim Saleh, of course, is a really strong grandmaster. You see his rating 2660, the top player from the United Arab Emirates. I'm curious how he will do in the online format.
I have to just remind everybody, as I now see that there are literally so many games going, that again, the Battle Royale format waits for no man or woman. This thing is crazy. Anna, right now there are, I think, like 16 games already started, and I'm going to do my best to help us choose games that look to be the most exciting. But I'm going to quickly flash around the analysis board as we keep the main game here on Hikaru Nakamura. This is the game going down right now between Fabiano Caruana and Sam Shanklin. If you're into board fours, here we got Dominique Myers against John Bartholomew, just showing that on the analysis board. As we already said, there is Andrew Tang, of course, for the Blizzard as well, going against International Master Dan Fernandez. This may be an exciting one. I'm looking at this one. We'll have to keep our eye on that. And if you have one you want me to go to, of course, let's mention Eric Hansen here, currently playing against Georgi Margvelashvili. That is also an interesting cross-division matchup to start. We have an Atlantic Division player taking on one of the Seattle Sluggers. So, Anna, you can choose the adventure if you want to. That'd be great. And only because I feel like it would be less pressure. I feel like I'm gonna make a wrong choice and be watching a game that people don't want to see.
Sure. I was looking at three games mainly. So Eric Hansen's game, of course, was one of my pick. Fabiano Caruana facing Sam Shanklin. I think that's a huge matchup. So two of the top players of the United States. Shanklin, by the way, has tweeted upon arriving home from Vaikanze. He said, do me a favor and never resign another drone position, said the border control agent at San Francisco airport.
Yep.
And passport. I really never will live this
Well,
one
let's go
down.
to that game. Yeah, Caruana Xiong. I'll mention a little bit of that. For those of you who don't follow over-the-board chess as closely as you should, the Pro Chess League, I mean, I know this is going to blow some people's minds, but the Pro Chess League is not the only event in chess. Tata Steel, a very big event in chess, just concluded, where Anna Rudolph was one of the main stars of the show there. But sadly for the reigning U.S. champion, Sam Shankland actually resigned one of his games in a drawn position, which is
Indeed.
against
He
Anish
did a
Giri.
favor.
Yeah,
He did a
which
favor to Anish. Quite a shocking decision to
yeah,
resign in a position that actually drew, but he thought that the end game was lost. So there you go. Even the passport controller knows
knew.
it at
Yeah.
some point.
Well, and it takes Anish Giri, I think, to get someone to resign in a drawn position, right? The Prince of Peace, as I call him. Anish Giri is the Prince of Peace, and even sometimes against him, when you think it should be a draw, you still resign. It's weird. Anyway, so what do we have here? Shankland is all in right now. Look at this. This is going to be a wild one. We've got f5 and f4 on the board, meaning black is doing two things with this idea: blocking in the bishop over here on h2 and maybe preparing to get e5, especially now that that bishop is no longer doing its job. But I've seen Fabiano sack the exchange a few times in the Pro Chess League so far. Anna, I have a feeling that bishop on e4 might disappear soon. I don't know how, maybe even just bishop d3, but if that bishop disappears, we've got a whole lot of light square problems. In fact, there you go. I like bishop d3 because Fabiano might be able to expose black's weaknesses here. What do you think?
I think it's a very important move. I agree with Danny on this, that the bishop on e4 was a monster. You gotta get rid of it. Bishop takes e4 is not a threat. Even rook takes e4 earlier would have been an idea, but bishop d3, why not just trade it? And if you get rid of this bishop on e4, then the e7 pawn is a target. The weak squares around the king, look at h7, g6, all the light squares. Without this bishop, it's gonna be tough for black to defend. I think the only disadvantage I see for Fabiano's position is that he's got less space and his h2 bishop is locked out of the game. But if he can somehow manage to activate the bishop, for instance, push h4 in the right moment, start weakening those pawns that are blocking the way of the bishop after a trade on d3, queen d3, queen g6, h4, at some point that would be ideal for white.
I like it. I just showed that line on the board. Yeah, I think h4 certainly, and even a move as risky as g3 could be on the board at some point, just because if you can pry open this bishop here at some point, in order to get all this space, black had to really risk the king side. So we'll see how double-edged this gets. Interesting. Sam takes on f3 to make sure he gets e5, and I actually like that. The more I look at it, I didn't realize how dangerous this could be for Fabiano, because one of the ways you expose a minor piece that's out of play, a lot of people think of bad minor pieces like they get trapped, right, or they're not active. But one of the ways you expose a bad piece, everybody, is you open up the board and try to create counterplay in other areas so that piece really feels his absence, that he's not there, right? And if e5 leads to a trade like this, just to show quickly, if black ends up trading on d3 with the knight for the bishop, yes, black has an isolated pawn, but this bishop is completely out of play and trapped, and that might lead to some serious endgame problems for Fabiano, right? So that's an interesting point. And he decides not to do it.
Shankland is playing in a very direct way, and I think this is the right approach, because if he was to wait a move or two, then Fabiano would have pushed already h4 or g3, as you mentioned, Danny. But now it's becoming so concrete. He's closing the center with e4, gaining more space, and even though white has the pair of bishops in such a close position, it does not matter.
Yep. Just want to give our first shout out to the Twitch chat. I feel like I'm with Anna Rudolph, the queen of engagement. She always knows and is always watching. So I'm sure she's read every single comment that's been going by. You're like the Hikaru Nakamura of hosting chess shows, right? He can multitask Puzzle Rush with like talking trash. You can multitask commentary with comments. But anyway, shout out. I see Cash Menka's there. We had Chess Bay earlier, Z Nation Chess, Sam Copeland. The Greg Shahadi. I almost said the Shahadi. He is the Shahadi. He's the commissioner, Greg Shahadi. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Really appreciate it. It's going to be a long day from here on out for the Pro Chess League. So please don't go anywhere else, and stick with me and Anna right here. So.
Indeed, as you have said, a shout out to our dear Twitch community. We have just hit 1,000 viewers, so thank you guys for joining us today on this beautiful weekday. And we do appreciate that you are watching chess nonstop here on Twitch. It's becoming such a cool sport, an e-sport, and the Pro Chess League is a big initiative in making chess an esport. So mark the date, May the 4th and 5th, if you want to see an esport chess event real life.
And while we're highlighting chat, I just want to also say to the Chess TV chat, we see you, Grandmaster Blue Wizard, saying Sam is on fire right now. He likes Sam Shanklin's position here against Fabiano Caruana, and so I tend to agree. The more this game is heading on, the more I'm hating that bishop on h2 and feeling like Sam Shanklin has gotten himself some prep. We know how dangerous he is in the kitchen. Sam Shanklin really makes really great greens with some nice, like a nice garlic white wine sauce. Phenomenal. But he's also good in the kitchen of the chess room where he prepares things with, and he really is. Honestly, he's one of the most well-prepared players on the planet, and I think he's, I don't want to say clearly better, but he's definitely got an edge here against Caruana. So I agree with Blue Wizard there.
Yeah, I think it was very important that he took on f3 and not on d3, pushed e5 in the right moment, and I really like Black's position. I wonder if this is enough of an advantage, or can he increase his advantage to even beat the number one player of the United States world champion challenger Fabiano Caruana. But so far, I'm very impressed with Sam, and he basically arrived home just a few days ago, so he may be like having a jet lag.
Well, we'll see how he finishes this. Let's check quickly back on Hikaru's game versus Salim Saleh, Arabic Falcon, who looks to be doing quite well here, at least if your first effort is to equalize. For sure, Black has done that. And will Black even have an edge against Hikaru Nakamura here? Something tells me we may just be headed for a big simplification. Oh, I'm sorry. Messed with my microphone there. Hope you didn't hear that. Nothing bad happened there? Let's give a shout out to Aron real quick. Aron, the producer, Mr. Production behind chess.com. There he is, right there. First camera shot of the day. He's been a little stressed. He's putting on his makeup for us, but he's doing a great job. Thank you, Aron. All right.
Let's use our Aron emote in the chat. You guys, if you are subscribers to the chess.com channel here on Twitch, and you are also an owner of these beautiful emotes, that's right. Aron, that's our producer. Shout out to our producer.
And this is what I predicted, and I was thinking everything would be traded on b4, and it's not to say Black still doesn't have a potential edge with the doubled rooks, but I get the feeling that a peaceful result is most likely here, assuming Hikaru can find a way to deal with this very obvious threat of rook d5 to d2 to come hit the g2 pawn. Maybe even just knight c4 is actually just fine.
Yeah, lots of simplification going on here. I think it will peter out to a draw, yes.
Yeah,
some pressure by Black, but I don't think this is enough.
Seems to be teetering? Petering's not a word. Thanks, Danny. All right, back to Shanklin Caruana, because this could be the biggest matchup of the day, especially if Shanklin holds this edge. Look how crazy this game has become. Fabiano did manage to get the pawn to g4 so that bishop on h2 is no longer a prisoner, but in the meantime, Black has completely expanded on the queen side, although how is this an improvement on Black's previous position? I don't feel like it can be. If we go back to move 25 bishop f5, where Fabiano first made this very direct intention clear, I want to push the g-pawn to open my bishop, Sam didn't seem to have anything concrete there, and he played rook d8 and then launched the queenside play, but I actually don't like Black's position at all anymore after the nice move a4, and the reason is that if you take on a4 here, everybody, White's going to play b5 first, intermezzo, kicking the knight from c6, and only then recollect the pawn on a4. And the difference is that Black's pieces are now the ones being pushed back instead of White's being trapped. Did he not see a4? I mean, this is turned around. Caruana has definitely gotten himself back in this one.
Yeah, he has completely turned the position, and I'm just puzzled by this b5 a5 by Sam. I feel like it was a bit too ambitious, and the position is opening up for the pair of bishops. The queen side is opening up for the rooks of White, so everything is now in favor of Fabiano.
Yeah. Well, Grandmaster Blue Wizard saying he should have played rook f8 to stop bishop f5, but I'm not sure he ever had that opportunity. Grandmaster Blue Wizard, sorry I don't know your real name, but now I'm going to call you Blue Wizard forevermore. After bishop g4, queen e8, the move g3, I don't know exactly where Black had the opportunity to stop bishop f5. That's the issue. He played rook d8, but unless there was an exchange sack on rook f8. So interesting, resourceful defense here from Fabiano, and I think it may end up leading to a victory, because Look at that bishop on h2 on it. It's like it's suddenly planned this whole thing all along, helping the b5 pawn advance up the board.
Indeed, that used to be the worst piece in position, and right now this is the one that will have Fabiano win in a few moves. I think this game could be over in a few moves with this b pawn just marching forward. And I don't know if b6 immediately or you bring one of the rooks to the b5,
Yeah.
but there's no defense. I don't think that black can prevent on the long run the promotion of this pawn without
Yeah.
loss of material.
I'm with you. I agree. Well, let's keep a quick eye on that on the live board just for a second. The analysis board is now showing, as soon as it changes on me, Grandmaster Eric Hansen's game versus Georgi Margvelashvili, where Margvelashvili seems to be pushing this one here with a very dominant knight on d4. I'm not sure it'll be enough to win, but the reason I wanted to highlight this is, again, the storyline we talked about is without Ivan Saric on it, the chess bras are shaken up a little bit. Hansen has been playing on board 3 for many of the weeks this year, right? And so for him to go on board 2, that's a little bit different than what's been the success recipe for the chess bras. So, so again, they're obviously a very big fan favorite. Of course, they're also streaming their own commentary. You can go to twitch.tv/chessbra to check out Amon Hamilton's analysis of that. But interesting to see what happens here. And as you see on the live board, I agree, Fabiano seems to be grinding. So let's move everything over here to this Eric Hansen versus Georgi Margvelashvili game, because I think Fabiano's going to do his deed there. All right, what do you think? Can Hansen hold this one, or is there a winning plan here for the strong knight?
The knight is beautiful. The problem is that the position is so close and black can't get through, I believe. There are some tricks in the position, so now with the rook on d8, sometimes there can be discovered attacks. I think he's trying his best. But so far, I believe that Eric has defended very precisely. He's just moving the bishop back and forth now, rook h2. I think with only the d file being open, it's going to be very difficult for black. But rook is actually, I don't like so much, because for a moment he abandons the only open file. Well, black didn't take advantage of it. He plays rook d7, so I think this is going to end in a draw.
Yeah, the more I look at it, the more I agree, and I also think that if you had flipped the times here, and if Hansen was the one under time pressure, you'd be more worried here for white. But Eric has done a very good job overall, honestly, this year as a commentator with you in the Pro Chess League. I can observe that, having covered a lot of the Atlantic, Eric has done a very good job with time management. I think it's been a part of his success, not being the first one under time pressure down on the clock. So now, okay, as I say that, here comes f5, and suddenly Margvelashvili makes it clear. He's not settling on a draw, so he did find a way to break through. I wonder if Hansen should have played f5 himself. Now, I still believe what I said to be true. I mean, the fact that he's got, if you had given him 2 minutes right now, he wouldn't be able to do what he's about to do, which is go into a think, that being Eric Hansen. But it may not save him anyway. I actually really like this f5 move, and it makes me feel like Eric played rook h2 a little too fast. He didn't realize what Margvelashvili was threatening here and should have played maybe f5 last move.
I completely agree with you. I think after f5, this is looking way too dangerous. E takes f4 is one of the threats, f takes e4 is the other, and I don't see a way for white to prevent the loss of material, because now there's this pin on the e file, the rook on e7. Rook h2 must have been a mistake, because this is...
and I think he was just playing very fast, thinking that Margvelashvili had nothing, but he just forgot to double check. Because let's show everybody, for the fans, what this is all about. As you said, Anna, if white just sits, black is threatening to take f4, and regardless of how you take, we're playing rook takes e4. And if you take with the king, it's actually checkmate on e4, so don't do that. But even if you don't sit, if you take on f5, for example, I think black is just going to take back with the knight with check, and when the king moves almost anywhere, we're advancing the e-pawn, I guess, and just quickly in a position where we have real problems for white with that passer. So what Hansen has now been thinking for 1 minute and 20 seconds, what could he do? Well, he answers that. He plays bishop d3.
E takes f4 has just been played by Margvelashvili. This is looking suspicious for white. By the way, shout out to my favorite chess streamer here on Twitch, Alexandra Botes. She's here with us in the chat. And Alexandra, I'm going to be taking notes when you and Robert are on. So the next stage, the next group will be covered by Alexandra Botes and Robert Hess.
That's right. Yep, shout out Alexandra. Shout out everybody who we may be missing, and I'm gonna rely on Anna to remind me of things when we need to say hi to the chat. What's up, BJH? I know you're there. Anyway, this idea of knight b5 is a very nice one because it's sort of the icing on the cake, the finishing touch to why white can't hold this position. That a2 pawn is a real problem, and the bishop locked out of being able to defend it. This move knight b5 is preparing knight c3, followed by knight takes a2. And Bob's your uncle there, right? It's a birthday and it's a girl on A1. There you go. So I think it's over here, unfortunately for Eric. For those of you who were following the scoreboard, you saw we had a result in the books there for the bishops, and indeed Fabiano Caruana did beat Sam Shanklin as we predicted.
But to quickly mention, the game, it has been Sam Shanklin doing very well in the middle game. We liked his position, but then he maybe overestimated his chances with these queenside pawn pushes. That was very awkward, b5 and a5.
I'm going to quickly show some other results here on the analysis board. We'll keep the live position there on Mark Velishvili's threat of knight c3. But as you can see here, this was the final position between Nakamura and Salim Saleh that ended in a draw as predicted. Another result in the books was Sean Rodrigue Lemieux getting a win over Roland Fang. That's a needed victory there for the Chess Bras, I believe. I believe it was. Maybe that was actually that was a win for the Sluggers. I'm sorry, my bad. No, the Sluggers. That was I was confusing who played for who, and Roland Fang has actually just helped the Sluggers leapfrog the bishops in terms of the overall leaderboard. Okay, so Black indeed has won the a2 pawn, and I think it's a matter of technique.
It is a hard take for all Chessbrah fans out there. Eric Hansen, who has done an amazing job in 3 weeks, the first 3 weeks of the Pro Chess League. He outperformed usually in every single matchup. Today, he's not starting well. He was defending very precisely up until the moment when Black prepared rook e7, f5, rook h2 must have been a mistake. No, I agree with you that if he had pushed f5, closing the position, I didn't see a way for Black to break through.
It was back at this moment where Hansen should have played f5, everybody. Well, I hate to do this to the Chessbrah fans who believe we're giving up on him, but we're going to, and we're going to move over to Finzo905 versus Northridge Hawk username. That is Dominique Myers playing the white pieces against Finns, because if we get there, you will see that we have a lot of time pressure for Finns. In fact, so much so that he loses. A huge upset here for Dominique Myers, taking down John Bartholomew.
That is really impressive. John Bartholomew is the top player on board for the highest rated player. And we all love John, of course, so this is another heartbreak. What's going on today? The streamers, favorite Twitch streamers of yours, going down in the first round.
I'm not sure where he could have improved. If you're looking for the final combination that happened, keep your eye on the live game if you want to know what's going on between Tang and Fernandez. But here, it looks like Dominique Myers just played a fantastic game. And up on the clock, along with having a winning position, she executed here. It was surgical on the light squares, and it got real on g6. And look at that. Just had to give up his queen, and Bartholomew fell very quickly. So, wow, huge win to start there for Dominique Myers and a big upset. A reminder that the Battle Royale week, we've talked about the format, but it's also a faster time control. How do we squeeze all these games in? Everyone plays 8 games right now, or I think it's 7 instead of 7 or 8 instead of the normal 4. It's 7. So it has to be a faster time control. So we are in about as fast as a time control can get, Anna, and it still be considered rapid. 10-minute chess is about as fast as it can be and still be rapid chess before it's blitz.
That is true. We had to cut the usual time control. It's 15 plus 2, and today it's 10 plus 2, so that we can actually see 7 rounds of immediate action. Andrew Tang is really famous for his bullet skill. I wonder, in rapid chess, how much of that use? I think it's when the opponent and him get into time trouble. So in the last minutes of the game, he definitely has the edge. But it starts with 10 minutes, which is a lot of time for Andrew.
Right. Well, and here, even if you have the edge on the clock, you can't be losing on the board. And here, Fernandez is definitely winning. Yeah. In fact, I think it's probably a matter of moments before that Tang just loses this one, which, speaking of upsets, will be another one. It looks like there's got to be a mating out here. Queen c4, I think, will be followed by queen b4 check. The king moves. Now, you don't have a knight c1 or knight c3 with a mate, But you do have queen b4, king a2, queen takes a4 with tempo, and I think that Fernandez is actually going to take Tang down here. So, okay, he's finding another idea. Oh, very nice use of geometry. The queen guards the g5 square, saying no thank you to any perpetual checks on d8, and Tang just resigns because of the dual threat of checkmate on a3 and b2. Wow.
This has been really instructive. The placement of the queen on c1 and then knight c4. This is how you should play chess. This is the dream.
No, seriously, a super, super big win there for Dan Fernandez, helping the Miami champions. You highlighted their storyline. They're kind of falling there in the Atlantic. They need a big win, or at least a good performance this week, and Dan Fernandez helped them out there. You see the Miami champions moving to 2 points on the day. Where to go on it? You can yell at me. I will show on the analysis board that Daniel Naroditsky, I said Danya and Daniel together. It was Daniel. Daniel Naroditsky took down Vorokobian. That was a big win for the mechanics. Indeed, if you're looking for what the final position was, Mark Velishvili did beat Eric Hansen, showing that on the analysis board.
And Hikaru versus Salem Saleh.
And it looks like with that right there, with that draw between Josh Bloom and Josiah Stearman, we actually have every game for the first portion here of the Battle Royale week come to an end. So, and that's where we stand right there. If you look at the standings right there next to the analysis board, after round 1 of play in this crazy Battle Royale format, the Sluggers got 3.5 points out of 4. So Hikaru's draw wasn't the worst thing in the world when the rest of your teammates get victories, right?
Amazing, 3.5. I'm going to take notes because my memory is just about like what happened 5 minutes ago. That's all I can remember. But 3.5 points is amazing.
Yep.
Wow.
My apologies. Dominique Myers is a he. I'm sorry. I don't know how to complete that sentence besides I made a mistake. I'm used to the spelling of Dominic being different with a D-O-M-I-N-I-C-K. This is a Q-U-E. I know I'm just kidding. This is like when my wife is telling me to just shut up. You're making it worse. You're burying yourself, and I'm not going to stop talking about why I said Dominique. Yeah. It's Dominic or Dominique?
We still love you, Daddy. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, that happened. Dominic Myers beat John Bartholomew, and with Tang also losing to Dan Fernandez, that's why we see the Blizzard there at number 7. And look at the Chess Bras, only a half point out of 4 after the first round of play. And again, their recipe to success has been pretty simple. Yvonne Sarge on board 1, Eric Hansen on board 3. This week, we have someone who hasn't played board 1 for them yet all year, and Eric Hansen, therefore, having to move up to board 2. And so I'm not trying to be the doom and gloom person, but we know they had a rough 2018 season, and they haven't really had a tough time so far. I mean, honestly, they're dominating. They're at the top of the Atlantic Division, which we'll show in a second. But Eric Hansen moving up from board 3 to board 2 is it's going to be interesting. Now he did just play. Well, on paper, not necessarily one of the tougher players in the division, but he had a tough game. Okay, who knows? But I think this is going to be a storyline we have to follow, and would be definitely a setback for the Bras if they had a poor performance in the Battle Royale week. So,
I'm curious to see how it's going to work out with Salam debuting. But I agree with you that it's tough when you don't have your usual players. It's a team that has been playing together for years. It's not just this season, but the Chess Bras basically have had the same lineup for all previous seasons of the Pro Chess League, including Ivan Sharic, who's not from Montreal, he's not from Canada, but he has been their free agent for years.
Yep. No, he's been a star for them, along with Eric Hansen. I think it's a toss up who's been the MVP, Saric or Hansen, but given Saric has taken that, I'll play the Wesley So and Fabiano Caruana. I'm going to hold my own on an average score level against the other top boards from other teams. I mean, you really missed that this week. But let's go. Miami actually has 3 points apparently, so the scoreboard is a little bit off. I'll provide some more info on that in a minute. But let's go back real quick to the player matchup cards showing us board 1 and board 2. Because one of the storylines there, you saw the San Francisco Mechanics starting out with a only 1.5 out of 4 score, but Danya Naroditsky did just beat on paper, the highest rated player of all the board 2s in the field. And if that continues, look for the mechanics to have a good day. Just wanted to point out that storyline because Shanklin just played the toughest player in the board 1 division, known as Fabiano Caruana, in case you've heard of him. And Naroditsky just beat the top board of board 2. So let's look for the mechanics to maybe make a move as the Battle Royale continues here.
Yeah, that is a storyline that we're going to follow, of course. And also, are they going to make a comeback in the next rounds? Remember, it's 7 rounds today, so lots of action. And just because the first round didn't turn out so well for some of your favorite teams and streamers, it can be changed in the next round. 7 rounds is a very long tournament.
And we are off here to see the Wizard in round 2 of play here in the 2019 Pro Chess League season. Battle Royale Week 1, the first time we've done this format this year, and it will come back. If you like it, please give us feedback. Let us know. You can find a lot of ways to comment on it and share your feedback, whether it's the official club on chess.com or post a comment in an article on chess.com. So let us know if you how you like this format and how it compares to the traditional every board of every team plays each other rather than only playing the top boards of every other team in this sort of more round-robin format. So we're underway. The first game I see on the show here is Dan Fernandez taking on one of the Dallas Stars, that being Andrei Gorovets. But a lot of places to go here as the games continue here. So if you see one you like better, let us know in the chat. Again, I'm just creeping here. I'm just looking at games because there's so many. Remind everybody, of course, Hikaru Nakamura is playing and streaming his own viewpoint, and right now it may be the matchup that gets the most attention this round. Anna, as here Hikaru is taking on Sam Shanklin in a game that is going very, very quickly here. Looks like a bunch of Nimzo theory. I didn't look at the opening yet, but I'm assuming this is a Nimzo because this is one of the few openings that I still play badly. So
it has indeed been an instant in defense. Both players are still in the book, and Hikaru at this point started spending some time. Well, we are not going to cover the opening, but it's certainly surprising to some of you who may not play the Nimzo in the end that after 10 moves, half of the pieces are gone from the board, at least the queens as the main piece. It's not usual that you see a king side that hasn't been touched at all. So kings and pawns on the king side for white haven't made a move yet. And this is move 11.
Yeah, and this is theory. Like I said, I play the Nimzo badly from time to time. I don't pretend to be an expert in this particular line, but I do know that neither one of these guys would be going into it so quickly if they didn't appreciate what the middle game is going to become with the queens off the board. They clearly have an idea of what they're trying to do, and I think that when players play Sam Shanklin, Anna, they're just ready to get a lot of theory. Sam playing rapid or blitz, he doesn't change who he is, which is he's a very well-prepared player who's going to challenge you and try to outplay you from there. There's no Hikaru Nakamura specialty when he's playing blitz and bullet with B3 and G3 on move 1. You know what I'm saying? He's just going to go with what he knows best. And so I think the players playing him know that they're in for a theoretical battle, even in a rapid format like this. And so Hikaru is playing quickly and keeping pace.
That's true. And finally, white is developing his kingside e3 and knight e2. You may wonder why the knight is going to e2, but it's not going to stay on e2, of course. And white usually follows up with f3 so that he can then play sometimes king f2, move knight away, then move the bishop. As you see with this bishop on b7 on the long diagonal, it's not so easy for white to develop the f1 bishop without pushing f3.
Yep. And that extra time is usually something black relies on. If black can get d5, something you may see coming here very quickly, trading the c for the d pawn and getting closer to kind of an equal endgame, which not to say it will be a draw, but I think from a theoretical point of view, black has to equalize first, especially when you're playing someone who's going to challenge you in that theory and not make a sideline opening. So so knight f4 is played. White instead is trying to make it a little bit harder for black to get d5 before he commits to developing the bishop on f1. And again, if I had to guess, these players are both still in theory. So let's go check on the game between Fabiano Caruana and Fidel Corrales. Here we've got an interesting game. Says the person when they don't know what to say about the game yet. You ever use that word? Just interesting. Right? That's how you sound smart when you have no idea what you're talking about. This game looks interesting.
Yeah, Fidel Carrera is originally a grandmaster from Cuba, but he has changed to the United States since he studied in America, and I believe he now lives and works in the United States. So it was a logical move from the Cuban grandmaster. And the position, let's just also talk about the position. Danny, your thoughts?
Sorry, I was distracted by Magnus Carlsen. Say that last part again. My thoughts on which part?
I was curious on your thoughts about this position. What about Magnus? I thought you meant
Oh,
Magnus.
no, not Magnus. The Magnus with a lisp.
Magnus.
My real
Shout out
thoughts
to
on the position, besides just the
166 of you guys tuning in for today's Battle Royale. This is the Pro Chess League and a very exciting format today. More points up for grab than usual. So it's a really crucial round today for all teams. The teams at the bottom can make it back to the halfway of the standings and keep their lead. The chess bras, well, they should start scoring points if they want to keep that first place.
Yep. And interesting comments aside, regardless, what do I actually think about the position? I think that Corrales is holding his own quite well, actually. I mean, we've seen Fabiano, though, be worse out of the opening already today and come back and beat reigning U.S. champion Sam Shankland. Here I like white, just objectively. The b6 square seems pretty easily accessible, and the fact that you already have this 4-on-3 difference, or called the dynamic imbalance on the king side here, is that this pawn on d4, while passed, is also isolated. And typically what ends up happening here is if this pawn can remain blockaded, white can play for f4 and e5. Using your 4-on-3 is often easier than like a 3-on-2 in the middle game, because you can advance both the f and e pawn aggressively and still have safe haven for your king on h1, right, with a couple of pawns on g2 and h2. So I'm looking at the potential here for white to play the knight on b6, maybe play for f4 and e5. I think one tactical nuance is very critical, that d5 is actually a square that's currently open, maybe. I thought maybe Fabiano had an idea of bringing the knight to d5 and c3. But instead, no, he quickly comes back after bishop g4 and e6, and I wonder what the goal is here. I guess the idea of e5 is, as a backfiring thing, Anna, is that it will always allow the d5 square to become open to the knight, even if you have attacking plans with things like f4 and f5. But I think Corrales is doing just fine here, objectively.
Yeah, I like his position, and I like the ideas that you have mentioned, pushing f4 in the right moment. I wonder if it's going to be right now after queen d2. He's preparing for f4, e5, f4, f5.
I like it as well. And I don't see a reason not to go for it. I think
games, I feel like in the previous game against Sam Shankland, Fabiano, it seemed like his position was worse with that bishop on h2 locked out, and now once again we like the position of his opponent. I wonder if Fabiano needs a little bit of a warm-up, because we are used to seeing Fabiano not losing a single game.
Yep, we are used to that, but we've also seen him be worse and still not lose a single game. So if we talk about who the top boards are heading in, you have the two most recognizable names are for good reason, Fabiano Caruana and Hikaru Nakamura. And let's actually quickly bounce back to that one, because it is a marquee matchup, Hikaru versus Shankland. Just to say, unless something wild happens and chat yells at us, I'm not sure we're going to spend a ton of time on this one. It's an endgame where I think that despite the fact that Hikaru has equalized, I don't know that there's a ton of winning chances for either side. Hikaru will put pressure on the c4 pawn, and maybe there's this idea, Anna, of knight from c5 to b7 and a5, right? Like a repositioning there to really gang up. Then you would have the bishop and the knight and both rooks all focused on c4. But something tells me it's too slow, and white should be fine even if a plan like knight b7, knight a5 comes in. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think that white will have enough compensation, because now after knight d3, for instance, if you don't trade the knights, then the knight will land on b4, annoying the a6 bishop. So before black can manage that setup that you were highlighting, knight b7, knight a5, and the rooks on the c file, white is going to be in time to attack the bishop on a6 and become way more active at knight b4. And
that's a good move. That's a good way to prevent that plan. Knight d3, as you said, knight b7 would be met by knight b4, and now we've got other problems with the bishop on a6. So yeah, I feel like we're going to keep our eye on this one because of the names, and we know that's what the fans want, but also I don't know that this is going to be the most exciting game that either of these two gentlemen play today. So let's bounce over to a different one. One that just caught my eye because it looks completely insane is the game Northridge Hawk versus Jinbo Jinbo. First of all, phenomenal username, Jinbo
Oh.
Jinbo. Um, Secondly, I feel like we're about to see something just nasty on the board, and I don't want to miss it.
Woo! Oh
Um,
yeah, let's not miss this. Let's not miss this. This is Woman International Master Zhu Jiner with the white pieces, and your new friend Dominic Myers with the black pieces, and it looks like there's something gonna
so
happen.
am I not
Something
allowed to
bad
say
gonna
Dominique? What's judge's ruling on that? Even if it's a guy, I can still. It looks like Dominique, does it not?
happen.
It's just Myers. Okay, just Myers. Sorry. Call officially. Shout out to our second producer shot of the day. Let's get him on camera because you can use those emotes.
Yay!
We love that guy. There he is doing it. Yeah, he's producing. Hey, Arn, what you doing over there? You're producing. Okay. Bishop f8 actually seemed like a saving grace. I just want to point out how crazy this position almost was for black. If this queen moved anywhere, not only was the c5 bishop hanging, but really the fireworks that caught my eye when I came to this board a few moments ago was
Yeah.
queen takes g6 with that pin on the f7 pawn, and that looked like we might get something real crazy. But Myers found the move, bishop f8, and after the queens were traded the old-fashioned way, black, while still probably clearly worse, is not necessarily checkmated, so good for Myers to survive that somehow, right?
Just say the chat being uh, very critical about you calling Mr. Myers a female player, but shout out to his opponent, Zhu Jiner, who is an eventually a female player, woman international master Zhu Jiner, one of the few female players in our group. And I think more teams should have female players because, first of all, they are very strong players, and secondly, it's better for the rating cap. Every team must have a rating cap of 2,500. So the rating average of the four players should be below 2,500. And if you have a female player, the rating of the female player counts as 100 points less, so that you actually get a benefit from having a female player that can be stronger than the male players. I think it's a win-win. So I'm encouraging more teams to register female players on their lineup.
Agreed, a million times over, and that's why we have the rule. And I think it'll be a trend as the game continues. I think. I want to give a reminder that those of you who saw I was looking at Twitch chat. Some of you started private conversations. Not gonna be able to look at those during the event here. Not gonna be able to look at those. Not gonna look at those. All right. So.
But I love the way how the chat also picked up on your Hikaruana, and Alexandra said that would be great because it combines the talent both in classical and rapid
If you
chess.
could,
So
if Fabiano and Hikaru had a baby, first of all, what would that baby look like? Photoshop contest. What would that baby look like? Hikaru Nakamura and Fabiano Caruana had a baby. You heard it here first. Give me a Photoshop. 1 year diamond membership. That's 1 year. I want to see it. Secondly, that chess baby.
Ruana.
The real answer to that is that chess baby probably wouldn't even play chess because he'd be too busy, like curing cancer or something. Be a smart baby. But anyway, all right.
Yeah.
The Okay, the other game I wanted to go to quickly is one that is also starting to get weird and wacky. I highlighted him as one of the keyboard twos to follow today, Daniel Naroditsky, taking on the man who just beat Eric Hansen. That's Georgi Margvelashvili. So this is a dynamic one where it's always weird when you look at a whole bunch of pieces in the center. You have no idea who's better here. White has completely blockaded these pawns, but the pieces are also super awkward here. I feel like the edge goes to Margvelashvili mainly because of the clock. That's my first instinct.
Mm-hmm.
But what are your thoughts on this crazy one?
That it is a crazy one, and my second thought would be is that it's very complex. I wanted to say first that I like Black's position because I like usually a very well-centered queen, more space in the center. At the same time, the h-file and the g-files are open, and that's where Black's king is. So it's not a safe position for anyone, for neither of the players. And c5, pushing c5, opening up the queen side, and that's where White has castled. I'm a little bit puzzled by White's strategy.
Yeah. Grandmaster Blue Wizard in the Chess TV chat highlights just so many bad pieces on H2 today. I agree. H2 has been a theme. It's
True.
not quite H3, hashtag Hikaru Nakamura on H3 square, but it's bad on H2. I, I, I also like the fact that Black's queen is in the center, but I don't know. I feel like if White can fix this problem with the knight on H2, meaning give up on the checkmate ideas, I don't need to bring my queen to H6 and try to do something crazy with knight G4 because it's just not going to happen. But if I bring my knight from H2 to F1 and G3 on now E4 is a target, right? And
Yeah.
something tells me that despite the centralized queen, that Black maybe has more long-term issues, maybe more long-term positional problems. Could be totally wrong, because as I say that, the Black Knight is also maybe going to come to G4. Perhaps F2 is a real problem. So it's actually very, I think, fun and instructive when you see two players of the same strength, me and you, kind of disagree about who we would like here. I think I would like White, but maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I like. I don't know.
Yeah. And also when it's a material imbalance, so White has an extra piece, but there are three pawns to compensate for it. It's really tough to evaluate it. Usually you would think that the pawns can only compensate when they are well advanced, and so they are post pawns that might promote. But here I think the main issue is White's king and this open c5. Maybe you're right that there's nothing wrong with this position for White, and White will convert it somehow, but I'm a little in doubt whether this position with the h2 knight and the king on the c5 can be that good for
Yeah.
Markashvili.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on it, just especially because we have the nice differing of stylistic opinions here. But we definitely got to mention some results here on the analysis board. We can see that Fabiano Caruana drew against Fidel Corrales, and I'm going to tell you boldly the reason that game was a draw is because Fabiano was worse. Fabiano offered a draw here, and Fidel Corrales said, "I'm playing Fabiano Caruana. I will take the draw." And although that's not something you teach your students to do, there is the reality of playing a 28-30 plus player.
That
And
is.
so for those of you wondering why, this is a position where White was definitely better. Corrales established the knight on b6 as we said he would. There were threats of rook a7. b7 was a problem. Caruana got away with a draw here because of his name, which sometimes when you're one of the best players in the world, that happens.
It does happen, yeah. I think to Magnus it happens less because I feel like, well, first of all, he doesn't get into bad positions often.
Right.
Fabiano neither, but today it's happening to him. And Magnus doesn't like to offer a draw, so
Yeah.
sometimes we see the world champion just suffering upsets because he wouldn't even offer a draw. But Fabiano uses the card that is a draw for inverse
Well,
position
and I
very
think
well.
sometimes you have a sense. I mean, I've had those kind of games where I'm clearly worse, but if I feel like I'm stronger, there's enough things weird going on that I'm gonna keep playing. And then you have times where you're worse, and you just have a feel that this is just not going well. This is not a position I want to keep playing, and so you do that as a stronger player, and sometimes that's an important strategy. At least remember, this is a team game, right? These guys have a responsibility not just to their position but to their teammates, and I think that's an important angle because as chess players we're used to just talking about the objective X's and O's. Is it a draw or not, right? But there's also a strategy involved here, and maybe Fabiano just said, "I'm black and I'm worse, and I'll take it." Another game that ended in an amazing fashion. Dan Fernandez took down Grandmaster Andre Gorovets of the Dallas Stars. So Dan Fernandez is a big part of why the Miami Champions currently have 4 points. So we'll keep an eye on
That's
that.
really impressive.
Eric Hansen also drew his second game, this time against Ravi Haria. So we didn't get to cover this one as much, but not Hansen's best day so far, as the chess bras are still struggling there at the bottom of the Battle Royal standings.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the chess bras, their top board, Salim Saleh, is facing Sergei Movsesian.
Okay, yeah, let's check out that one. That's it. Let's go to that one. That's a great one. Lots of time pressure. Ooh.
He's an exchange down. So just when I looked at the position, not a good day for the chess bras so far.
Yeah.
Salim is in trouble unless there's something concrete right now on f7, but his king is also wide
I was going to
open,
say, I
so
think Queen
I don't
H3
really
and Rook
think
to the
it's
first
getting
rank is
mated.
mate.
Getting mated.
Owie.
Oh,
Ouchtown. Population
Ouch.
chess bras. There you heard it. You heard that bad pun first. Ouchtown population chess bras. Hey, chat. How you doing, everybody?
I
Love
was
you.
wondering a shout out to Pro Chess League Commissioner Greg Shahade, who's going to pay $20,000 this week for the lucky winners of the Fantasy S competition. The Greg today I'm going for you, but on Friday I'm gonna win the 10K. I'm telling you.
If Greg
And you pay
really
me
wants to
donut.
bring if Greg really wants to bring the odds, and if he's that confident that nobody can ever have a perfect bracket, then the prize fund needs to be like rollover. Like, remember that company, like the cellular minutes would roll over? Then right now
Yeah.
it should be like at like 60,000. Like, it should just keep rolling over, where it's like the lottery. If you really want
Yeah.
people to play this thing, there you go. There you go, Greg. All right. Shout out. Movsession did indeed take down Salim Saleh. So the Lions right there in the middle of the leaderboard. And right now a really rough start for the Chess Bros. Um, where to next? I guess Hikaru and Shanklin, because one, Hikaru is showing why he's Hikaru Nakamura way up on the
Yeah.
clock. And two, he completely outplayed Shanklin from an equal endgame and now is about to win in a king and
A
pawn
king and
in king and pawn
pawn.
fashion.
Very nice, very nice. And Sam Shankland resigns. Wow, what an endgame, because we thought that it was just equal and it should have been a draw, but Hikaru simply outplayed Sam
Yep.
in an equal endgame.
100%, and I guess I get my chess karma for saying that it should be roughly equal. I think Sam should be able to hold. Hikaru says, "Shame on you, Danny." Right? Saying Hikaru Nakamura is not going to win is like turning your back on the ocean. It's just a bad idea.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time. So let's see what happened here. Follow the analysis board. You can look at the live game as International Master John Bartholomew tries to bounce back there. But let's see what Hikaru did here, because I bet it was instructive.
Yeah, and for Shankland, that's his second defeat in a row, but he was facing, of course, none other than Fabiano Caruana and Hikaru Nakamura as round one and round two opponents, but he had good positions in both games, and
Yep.
then he lost both games.
I think he was still doing okay here after Rook H1 the trade, but maybe I'm already underestimating how potentially dangerous this position is for White, based on two things if you look at the analysis board, everyone. Yes, White has defended c4, but it's taken all this awkward coordination to do it. You got this Rook on c3, the Knight on b4, and the more I look at it, the more I don't like Sam's decision to have played the g4 move. He probably should have just sat on the position rather than ever playing g4, because what that did was open up all these dark squares that Hikaru eventually took advantage of. As we see the plan here in this game, as soon as the rooks were traded, Hikaru didn't need to be asked twice. He played king d6, king e5, and king f4, and you suddenly realized how much more dominant Black's king was compared to White's, and that this knight on c5 is almost single-handedly keeping all of these pieces in prison. So very, very nice technique from Hikaru. Black is probably already just clearly better with that king on f4, and then he goes on to just outmaneuver him, combined with Sam's time pressure, and he wins this endgame very cleanly. Trades off everything, and the king and pawn ending is over because Black's king is closer. So,
Really instructive game by Hikaru Nakamura. So congratulations, of course, to the top streamer, the highest rated streamer out there on Twitch. He's the one and only Hikaru Nakamura, who does he streams, I feel like, almost every day. I love his dedication toward Twitch and the Twitch community. So shout out to Hikaru, and make sure to follow his channel and subscribe to Hikaru's channel, because he streams all the time. And I so appreciate that he's that much into it, because we have seen Magnus streaming sometimes. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave has just started. Fabiano has his channel too, but they are not as active as Hikaru.
Yep. And he's active right now. And he's got 2,000 viewers. No surprise, because he's Hikaru Nakamura, crushing it.
Yeah, Sam is correcting me that MVL is higher rated. I was aware of that, but I meant that he is among the active streamers. I didn't phrase that.
Among the active streamers. Really, really active. Hikaru is definitely the highest rated streamer in chess. And so as chess continues to kind of explode on the gaming scene here on Twitch, it'll be interesting to see where Hikaru's channel goes. And of course, we're super happy for him, and it's only the beginning of Hikaru Nakamura on Twitch, if I had to predict. So, all right. Well, Finns, i.e. John Bartholomew, managed to win a piece, so I guess in theory Black should be just easily winning here. But as I look at the clock, I don't want to go anywhere, because something magical might happen here for either side. This is going to end in fireworks.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I was looking at the end of the game between Margilashvili and Naroditsky, where White had a piece up, but Black was compensating for it with 3 pawns, where Danny liked White's position, I liked Black's position. Black won. No, but the position was super complex anyway. So.
I didn't interrupt you because you were making a point, and obviously Black should win anyway. But it definitely was a fun way for that to end there, with the queen just departing on g2, right?
Oh, yeah, I didn't see John's game at the same time. I'm sorry. I was looking at the other game.
Oh, well,
Oh,
let's go to. Okay, there's several places to go. We've got Andrew Tang there on the live board, the analysis board. I am currently showing Vara Kobian's game versus Cristobal Henriquez. So we'll stay with both here because both could end here momentarily. Benjamin Bach, of course, a free agent acquisition, I believe, for the St. Louis Archbishops. Bach has been playing actively on chess.com since he was a young international master Dutch lad. Now he's one of the strongest grandmasters Dutch
yeah.
lads. But either way, he's here, and I think this one should end in a draw. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's. I'm looking at the bishop ending where maybe Var Akobian can create some sort of zugzwang. But what do you see in Andrew Tang versus Benjamin Bach's game? Maybe I'm just going to go there.
Trying
honestly.
for sure now with the second rank and one, the bishop from F not be moved away because of the pawn on G2. So I think Black has done everything he could so far in terms of the rook and the bishop. The question is, can he activate his king as well, or can he do something with pawn advances? Trade on F4, and this is very good, of course, because the bishop on F2 would have been hanging. Great chances for Andrew Tang, no, Benjamin Bach. What am I saying? I'm looking at it the other way around.
Wow. I think this should just end. Nope, not anymore. H3 has fallen. Tang's pawn has fallen.
Yeah, it's gone.
It's gone. Wait. I was distracted by a million things. What just happened there? How did Bach work this one? Tang played F4 here on the analysis board, thinking the simplification would help, but was that really necessary? If he had blockaded, well, you know what the threat was on a back-on move 68? I think the threat for Bach was to play H5 and H4 with check on the king, and then all of a sudden everything would have fallen apart with the bishop on F2.
Yeah, so he went for F4 trying to save the situation, but it all looks bad. White from then on is downhill.
Yeah, so he played F4, everybody, because of this threat here of H5 and H4. So Bach had really been creative and done the best he could, as Anna said, to coordinate the rook and bishop. But objectively, probably Tang shouldn't have been in this spot. I mean, this knight moving to E5 rather than a square like E3, perhaps, to maybe defend F1 and G2. No way with two pawns for the exchange, one pawn for the exchange, but double pawns should Tang have lost this. And as I look at the live position, maybe he won't. He swindled his way back into it. Now he's got rook and knight.
Oh, wow. How did he do this?
I have to go back and look again. I was trying to be instructive. Shame on me.
Never be instructive. That's the conclusion.
Never be instructive.
How on earth did he get this position? Now it should be a draw, but can he just? Wow.
Well, you know what happened is Bach blundered. He played bishop G2 check on move 74, thinking that king takes, rook takes E3, knight G4, that he could take the E4 pawn, but he missed that there was knight F6 check with a fork emote all over the place. And because of that, Tang was able to steal the H6 pawn for free. So that led the endgame back to an equal spot. So one blunder by Tang getting this awkward setup met by a blunder from Bach, who just misses this fork coming on F6. And this should be a draw. Yeah, I see questions there from Jay Braze on the chat. This is I hate using the term easy, but I'll put it this way. Like, rook and bishop versus rook is often won by the rook and bishop more than it's defended. But king and rook and knight versus rook, or one rook versus a knight, these are typically just very, very easy to hold because of what you're seeing. The knight does such a good job of helping defend the king in close proximity, which basically prevents your king from making progress. Whereas when you have like a bishop right on it, in a bishop ending, the bishop is stuck to one color, which means the enemy king can maneuver its way in. And I think that's one of the practical reasons why it's so hard to hold. But in this case, there's no progress that the black king can make because this knight does such a good job of just holding squares around his king, and it's just, so yes, you can lose it, but it's a very easy draw, and it's much harder to lose than it is to draw.
I agree, although Howard is saying in the chat that he has seen a person with the knight winning this in classical chess. That takes some skills to step into a fork when you're playing it with the rook, but it should be a draw. It's a theoretical draw. What an escape by Andrew Tang. His position was completely lost at some point.
Yeah, completely lost. But again, I guess Bach Bach just under. Oh, like we said, he made that blunder and missed a chance there. And the next round is actually already underway, so no rest for the weary. I think these last couple of games that went really long made it so that the next round started. I feel like the last round you and I had almost 2 to 3 minutes of dead time, but now that
Yeah.
long game really pushed us right up against it. So here we go. Where you want to go? We got Fabiano Caruana versus Iturizaga. We've got Hikaru versus
Yeah,
Fidel
Hikaru versus
Corrales.
Fidel Corrales. Those of you wondering, by the way, when will Hikaru face Fabiano? It's coming up next. This is round
Is
three,
it
and in
really?
round four. Round four is Fabiano versus Hikaru. So one
That's
more
what I'm
round.
talking about. Don't go anywhere, people. Caruana versus Nakamura coming up.
Yeah, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Where shall we start? I think everybody loves Hikaru's games, and well, it's just in the opening, but we can highlight what Danny already mentioned, that Hikaru sometimes likes to go for a little bit of an up, how shall I call it? Not so usual openings, 1b3. In this case, it was 2b3, so knight f3, b3. But even when you start with these moves, oftentimes it just transposes to
Yeah.
something more classical.
If you look at the ECO, it'll call this some sort of ready. I don't know exactly what. I'm not a scientist, but it's some sort of ready. But the regardless of the name, the point is it's a unique development setup that you don't see in over the board high level grandmaster chess as much. But in Blitz, I think or like we'll say Blitz and Rapid, where very often your understanding of the plan and your experience in a position can be just as valuable as whether it's objectively the best, right, Anna? And I think that one thing Hikaru Nakamura has taught us is that your ability to be up on the clock, your ability to choose a plan that is pretty good very quickly, is sometimes more important than whether it's objectively the most theoretically challenging line. And so that's, for those who tune into that and wonder, how come Hikaru gets to play knight f3 and b3 and my coach won't let me do that, right? If you look at our analysis board. Well, again, there's a lot to playing these sort of slightly obscure, less known openings, and Hikaru just knows them really, really well, which makes him even more dangerous and rapid and blitz. So,
Yeah, as Greg is saying in the chat, I expect that Hikaru has had all these positions literally thousands of times. I think you're right, Greg. And it is useful when you play so many blitz and bullet games and you go for these kind of schemes. Of course, Hikaru knows so much opening theory anyway, but yeah, it's good to have experience when the time control is shorter than classical chess.
100%. I'm gonna try to spy some games that may end up being interesting for us later on, even if we don't switch now. Let's take a quick peek here on both boards here over to the Sam Shanklin game. Shanklin versus what's Mogusession's name? Tesla 37. And this one I think is going to get wild for us, mainly because the kings on opposite sides of the board could get us some fireworks here.
Yeah, and Shankland, I wonder how he's feeling after his first two games, two losses from good positions. Chess players are not robots, and psychology does matter. So I wonder how much of his confidence has been shaken.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess he'll be all right. I mean, he lost to. I mean, don't want to put this the bad way, but two guys that he's lost to before, and Hikaru Nakamura and Fabiano Caruana, and I don't think guys like that are ever happy. He was certainly much better against Fabiano. The Hikaru game was, he shouldn't have lost, but okay, that's life. Here he's gonna be in a wild one. This last move, f6, a really good move to play when you've got kings on opposite sides of the board and you're looking to open up lines, open up access points over here. I like that Black is not just gonna let the position stay closed, and the reason why this is nice is because after e takes f6. I think he'll take back with the bishop, but he could also take with the d7 knight. My guess is that the opening of the position will become more important over here than the fact that the e6 pawn is a new weakness. So,
Yeah,
so we like
I
this.
totally
I like
agree.
f6 here for Shanklin. I wonder how he'll take back.
He can also, I like if he takes with the knight, the bishop can go to d6 afterwards to put pressure on the h2 pawn. So there's plenty of
point.
ideas. But bishop takes f6, then the idea would be to target the d4 isolated pawn. There are plenty of plans that Black can go for. I wonder actually, that's why he's taking his time, because in this moment, I think he can go for knight 7 takes f6 and then bishop d6 or bishop takes f6. He goes for bishop takes f6, and in that case, there's a lot of pressure on the isolated pawn on d4.
Yeah, and maybe he wants to play e5 in some position. Okay, knight d3 is a nice way to stop that, poking at both c5 and e5. going to make this tricky for Sam. But all right, let's move all the action over here to this game between John Bartholomew, Finzo 905, and Dragon 1249. Roland Fang won his first game, and he's a part of the reason that the Sluggers are sitting there atop the standings for Battle Royale week. And I think this is going to be an exciting one. I like Finn's position to start. The queen is coming from d4 over to the king side. John Bartholomew, it's not usually his style to go for an all-out checkmate attack, but who knows? Maybe he'll do it here.
Yeah, I also haven't seen many games where John goes all in, but well, you gotta do what the position requires, and in this case, yes, he shall be attacking on the king side. I like to have more space, so I like White's position, and the queen maneuver to the king side is always fancy with the knight on f5. But what shall he do now after bishop c8?
Yeah, it's irritating because you wish you just had one more move if you're White. Slide the queen to f4 and hit d6. Or maybe even g5, but I think bishop c8 was actually a super well-timed defensive retreat, which is a good heads up for people wondering, you know, one of the things you have to do as a chess player, you develop all your pieces, and we hear that as a beginner player. Get your pieces developed, get them off the back rank. But as the position develops, the overall position, the goal for your pieces may change, and in this case, an undeveloping move is actually exactly what the position called for Black. And so being aware of the bigger picture plan, and we always like to say develop plans, not pieces. So if the plan is a remaneuvering, you got to be open to that. And I think that's an instructive point right here for maybe beginner level chess players. Shout out to Addison Lee, Diamond member. I think I know that guy from Twitter, hanging out in the Chess TV chat.
Shout out to you and to 1,699 of you guys out there tuning in for Battle Royale of the Pro Chess League. This is a really exciting format, and there are more points up for grabs. So today's round is even more important than the usual matchups. It's basically the teams can double their points or triple their points if they are doing well today, or the opposite can happen. And the standings will be completely mixed up after today's round.
And it'll be exciting to see what happens because right now, atop of the performance so far, are some teams that aren't necessarily leading their divisions. Okay, the Sluggers are doing quite well, but the Bishops, they're right in the middle of the pack. The Chess Bras are at the bottom of the standings right now in Battle Royale week, even though they lead the Atlantic Division. So Anna's not kidding when she says that we could see some major shakeups in the standings after today. So Queen f4 by Finns. He's going to invite the trade of. Whoa, I was going to say he's inviting the trade on f5, but Fang plays g6. He's just laughing in the face of danger on both the dark squares over here as well as the d6 pawn.
I wonder... Well, first of all, we got to check what happens if you take the pawn on d6.
I think if you take the pawn, it's knight h5 now. I'm realizing.
And after queen e5...
It seems crazy, but can I just play f6?
Yeah, f6 I think is the move.
I know Feingold says never move your f-pawn, but we know Ben is wrong most of the time. I mean, so if you didn't know that, I just told you. Ben Feingold wrong most of the time.
Yeah, even if you can't take the pawn. I was going to say that I like knight d4 because of these holes on the light squares, the c6 square especially.
Yep, I agree.
I would have taken that knight on f5 if I was Black, because now this knight is really annoying in the center and jumping to c6 or b5. Knight h5, it's becoming very concrete. The queen is a little awkward for White right now with the knight on d4, I agree, but can he just, queen f3. I was also thinking of queen h6, and I don't see why this is so good for Black. Suddenly, after g6, knight h5, I really like John's position. It's very harmonious. Everything is very harmonious and nicely placed for White, but Black is doing a little bit of a very concrete play with bishop c8, g6, knight h5. But concrete play means that you actually need to get something out of it right now. Otherwise, your pieces are badly placed.
Agreed a million times over. And I think that even though that bishop undeveloped itself to c8 with the first purpose of hitting the knight out on f5, now it probably needs to redevelop itself to d7. Maybe to guard some of these squares, like c6. Okay, rook e8 is an interesting move. I think trying to slow down White's intentions to just get a big center with something like e4. But I also like Bartholomew's position here. Let's check on Eric Hansen's game against Conrad Holt, because Dretch, playing the black pieces here, had just played this interesting move f5. Um, Hansen is up a pawn here, so looking to rebound and help the chess bras crawl their way back up the standings.
It will be important because Eric so far has scored only half a point out of the first 2 games. But this one is promising. After f5, how shall he react? He can either take on f6 or move the rook away.
Yeah.
Both options make sense.
I was
He's
going to say, I'm
moving,
guessing moving the rook is best, and that's what he does, mainly
yeah.
because I think that the plan has already been established for white. Play king e3 and king d3, and just
Yeah.
hit the rook and try to use this extra c-pawn we have here, right? And I think
and
changing
rook e2
the
is a nice
nature
move,
of
bringing the rook-
whatever, the nature of the endgame, taking f6, changing the structure, seems unnecessary, although, okay, Dretch plays bishop c5, and so now Hansen has to prove that the rook ending will offer enough winning chances. Nice defense by Holt, honestly. Bishop c5 is such a nice move.
Yeah, going for a rook endgame will give him better chances of surviving this pawn down position.
Yeah.
But even like this, I think Eric will, of course, try. The thing is, if you take now on c5, rook takes c5, c pawn is in the air and the king is not in time. And if you start with king e3, you would love to play king e3 here, but rook takes c3 is a possibility because there's a pin.
Yep. Yeah, very nice point. The pin on d4, that's a problem. Okay, so he trades on c5, but, I mean, frankly, the more we look at the position, the more it seems like white's advantage is not going to be enough with this, even with this extra healthy c-pawn. It's passed, but it's isolated. Black will double rooks here, and likely this one's going to end in a draw. We saw our first result in the books here in the third round of play. That's FIDE Master Josiah Stearman, Josie Wales did get a victory there, which is why the mechanics have tied the sluggers there with 5 points on the day at this point. So that was the final position there on the analysis board. But let's go back to Fabiano Caruana's game versus Iturrizaga, because Fabiano now with the white pieces has just played this move knight h5. Iturrizaga quickly plays knight g6, but something tells me Fabi's about to get freaky over here. Fabi's about to get freaky here. He's going to take on g7 with h5. Maybe he plays g4.
Oh my. I think knight f6, I mean, I'm not calculating, but knight f6 works so often in these kind of positions. If you can place a pawn on f6 and then queen h6, because the black queen is very far from the f8 square and there's no dark square bishop for black. So that could be one of the options. I don't know if it works, but
even rook e3 looks pretty straightforward.
Oh, I love rook e3, of course, as well, and knight f6 is still a possibility.
I think we'll see knight f6 now. I really don't think Fabiano's going to let the queens get traded.
Yeah, he shouldn't, of course, and he knows it. He knows that if he wants to give mate, he should keep the queens on the board. And knight f6, a piece sacrifice, just so that he prevents the mate and creates a pawn on f6 that will be really a very painful piece in black's position. Almost worth a piece, this pawn on f6.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if there's some other move that he might come up with besides that. It may be a way to make it even simpler. But overall, the reason why this attack is so dangerous for white, everyone, is just because even if you don't see a forced mate, you can get away with a piece sack like Anna's saying that's kind of slow with knight f6 takes, because look at all these pieces over here. The knight, the bishop, even the rooks are completely out of play in regards to helping the king defend. And so you start to, that's when you smell blood, because if you can make any sort of avenues for your pieces open up, it's going to be very difficult to defend. Queen g3, I'm guessing he meets...
I'm not so convinced by g3.
What's he meeting?
He allows queen takes h...
Oh, but now he's trading queens, and he's just going to win the pawn? That seems...
It's a completely different position. I still like white's position because it's more space and...
But you know what? I think Fabiano had a brilliant point here. Black is not out of the mating net woods. Now that the h file's open, he's going to play f3, king f2, and the other rook's going to come to h1.
True. Although I'm not sure that queen takes h4 was any forced. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure it wasn't forced. So if there was a better move for black in that position with the queen on g3 blocking the rooks away, I thought that it wasn't so convincing. But after queen takes h4, certainly bishop takes g6, very nice move.
Yeah, and so now you see black kind of playing a gambit here, giving up the g7 pawn because he knows his only real chance to draw is counterplay on the queen side, not to try to defend the king. again, to show you the point we were looking at, rook g8 might have been met by a combination like rook takes g7 and knight f6 check. That was one idea, but also just in general, if you're sticking to just defending such a bad position, f3, king f2, and then rook h1 might be mate very quickly. So, okay.
And in the meantime, Hikaru Nakamura has won his game against Vida Corrales, so that's another point for the Seattle Sluggers, an important point.
Hikaru Nakamura is doing what they hired him to do there in Seattle, which is win chess games. He's currently at 2.5 out of 3 on the day, so playing very well. But he will be taking on Fabiano Caruana next. So if somehow you're just joining the show, please don't go anywhere. Thank you for being here. Next round, we have the two highest-rated players on the day going at it, Hikaru Nakamura versus Fabiano Caruana.
I'm so hyped. I'm so hyped. That's going to be a poggers moment when Hikaru Nakamura faces Fabiano Caruana, the top 2 players of the United States in today's round of the Pro Chess League. And shout out to almost 2,000 of you tuning in for the Battle Royale, a very special format of the Pro Chess League. But there's lots of points up for grab. It can shake up the entire standings in all divisions of the Pro Chess League.
And the standings that you just highlighted have they haven't been shaken up yet, but again, those of you who've been following the league, you know that the Bishops and the Chess Bras are leading the Atlantic Division, and right now they are not leading play today. Right there, you can see heading into this matchup, you have Montreal with 60.5 points, the St. Louis Archbishops in third place actually, but not far behind. But if you look at the standings for today as play is underway, you know that they are fighting to stay out of the bottom right now. So really interesting stuff. All right, Fabiano Caruana looks like he should be moments away from taking this one home against Iturrizaga. But where's the beef? Where's the mating net?
I want to see it. I want to go back to that game too, because I was briefly looking at Hikaru's final position. But yeah, it's a good question. With a knight on f6, it's looking very promising. He's not winning yet because the king would just simply go to e7. b4.
Yeah, that's a
interesting.
weird move.
It allows the knight. Yeah, it allows the knight to jump to c4, but I guess his point is that he doesn't need the queen side. He wants to play, if the knight goes, if knight c4 or knight c6, he can play bishop to c1,
yeah, and then to
and
g5.
the bishop will join the attack. Before the c5 was covered by the 2 rooks of black, so there was no bishop c1 possible.
Well, not only that, I just realized that's not even. He's actually going to get this bishop c1 idea no matter what, because the knight only has c4 or c6, and so I think Fabiano has this in his pocket if he wants it, although knight c6 is better because it hits the d4 pawn. So at least here, if Fabiano plays bishop c1, black has knight takes d4. Black might still be getting mated after something like bishop g5, guarding the dark squares, threatening rook h8. I do believe that if there's a mating net here, Caruana will find it. It looks like he decides there isn't just yet, but it's still very dangerous for black.
Yeah, first he occupies the c5 with the rook, it makes perfect sense, and rook c5. I love this move because now he frees the c1 square for the bishop, so all the white pieces will be attacking. And he just made sure that the one and only open file that black controls the c5. Now if there's a trade on c5, on the c file, on c5, a pawn will appear, protected pawn for white, so he doesn't have to do anything about this pawn. I mean, about the rook on c5. He just keeps the rook on c5 and waits for the trade on c5.
It's a very precise, surgical kind of way to approach this position by Fabiano. Just closing off all counterplay. You put that rook on c5. It's like a thorn in your shoe. You just can't get rid of it, and you don't want to take here. It would make it worse, and that allows the c file to be sort of the train station, the routing station for the bishop to come over here to g5. Very just accurate, and I think you'll play bishop g5 here anyway if you're Fabi. He loves to sacrifice the exchange, first of all. It's like one of his favorite things in the world, I can tell you that, along with the circus. Fabiano loves the circus and sacking the exchange. I don't know why.
Bishop c1, 97 on the board, but this is looking
I'm hoping he plays bishop g5, so my point about the circus can be proven. But shout out real quick. Oh, no, okay, he didn't. Diamond member Sorjon, or S-O-R-J-O-N, Sorjon says that Fabi lacked the confidence to take on Magnus, but had the discipline to play smart. Hikaru would have had the courage to beat Magnus, but would have taken more risks. And given that there is a Photoshop challenge right now talking about what would happen if Fabiano Caruana and Hikaru Nakamura had a baby, I thought that was a great comment to read on air, because it's true. I mean, people have different styles, and with it comes different strengths and weaknesses. Fabiano can get surgical real fast, and I think bishop g5 is that okay. He plays g4, but wasn't bishop g5 also just lights out? I don't know why.
It looked like a potentially game over move, but you're right that Hikaru is more likely that he would have gone for that kind of way of winning the game. And Fabiano, well, he's better now in this end game. More space, more active pieces, protected possible on c5, but there's no mate on the board.
Yeah, I don't know why he's not playing bishop g5, because if king g8, you just move the rook, and then there's no way to stop bishop f6. So this is getting awkward. I don't know why he's not playing bishop g5.
I'm wondering what is wrong with bishop g5. That's a very natural move.
Okay, I don't know. Bishop g5. I'm trying to see what the deal is here, but bishop g5 seems pretty straightforward. So we'll see if Fabiano does that, keeping it on the live position. Want to mention quickly, there's another game that's about to come to an end, a battle of well-known board ones. That's Arabic Falcon versus Jeffrey Xiong. So the analysis board is now showing white up on the clock. You'll see that in a second, but also maybe on the attack here on the H file. So we'll see if Jeffrey Xiong can get a big win here for the Dallas Stars. Fabiano finally plays bishop g5. Okay.
Yeah, bishop g5 is very logical. I didn't understand if there was anything against it, but simply Fabiano took some time to calculate everything. It's opposite colored bishops, so sometimes there's danger that it could lead to a draw, but with attack,
oh wait,
if you're
I was gonna say c6. He just missed it. Oh my gosh, that was bananas.
Mate.
What a nice way to end that game. The point, everybody, is I guess we have to back up here on the analysis board and show everybody why Fabiano's idea was so accurate that all of us were being critical of, and shame on us, because here's the point. I guess bishop g5 wasn't ever going to be enough if the king just ran on the light squares, but what Caruana does with g4 and then f4 and f5 is he creates a new threat, which is this 7th rank and the targeting of this bishop on b7, kind of an x-ray there with the rook. So by bringing up f4 and then f5, he's threatening to take either pawn, and black's f7 pawn is pinned to the b7 bishop. So that tactic by itself forced Iturrizaga to panic and play this move bishop c8, to which Fabiano just delivered the... Is it just unstoppable mate now after c6? I think it is. c6 is just lights out. It's just mate next move.
It is mate, and then we were claiming that Hikaru would have gone for the mating net already earlier on, but Fabiano, he wanted to go for this endgame, superior endgame. He's winning, of course, and he eventually gives mate too. So it is Hikaru in action, complete action. Remember the Photoshop contest? It's a 1-year diamond membership offered by Danny Raj.
That's right.
For the person that creates the Hikaru baby, that is the baby of Fabiano and Hikaru. How would it look like if they had a baby?
Yeah, and I see diamond member Razid Art is saying Fabarama. First of all, Fabarama sounds like a place I want to go to there, like Woodstock, Fabarama. Sounds like a cool place. Secondly, Dan Fernandez wins yet another game here for the Miami champions, this time taking down Benjamin Bach, just showing the final position there. He was black, and he took care of things in the simplest fashion by just eliminating the bishop on g2 to get rid of this passed c-pawn. So shout out to the Miami champions who came in I guess down on the standings, have really worked their way back into things here if they can continue to have a strong performance being led by Dan Fernandez. So, all right, we're looking at this one on the board right now between John Bartholomew and Roland Fang. Looks like the Blizzard are bringing the storm to the Slugger.
Certainly. Sometimes there could still be some tricks, a stalemate idea for black, but I'm confident John will not blunder any of such.
Yeah, this is actually a harder position to win, I think, than it looks, though.
Yeah, because there's this blockade on the h5 square, and it's not so easy to activate the king. So king g4, the knight comes back to f6. Rook check, but king f5. They are repeating moves. you can do this, do that, try a little here, and then come back. The thing is, white will eventually need to play king g4 in the right moment, but the knight comes always back to f6. So how do you achieve? Okay, now with the rook on g5 and the g
Yeah.
file.
He's got the
Rook
king on the
g5.
g file, but I think
It's not so easy.
I think the
I was
right
going to say
plan is to get the rook back where it was and bring the king to either g3 and f4. At some point, you want to like bring the king into e5 and try to smoke out the king and the knight by using your king in the center. I think that's the winning idea for white, where you end up not worrying as much about the h pawn. And instead getting your king active, something like king f4 now. Yeah, this is the right idea. King f4, king e5, then even do some sort of swing action where the rook comes to a1 and a8, and then backdoor over here via the 8th rank. I think this is the winning plan for white, and maybe John has found it.
I think he will go for
this is the right idea.
Now. Yeah, it's looking really nice, and it also cuts the black king from the
knight
king.
f6 would actually lose on the spot here because of rook g1 and then rook f1 pinning the knight. And now there you go. Wait, he's separated the knight and rook, but maybe that was a mistake because now he can't stop knight g2.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh, he's really let this one slip.
Oh no, this is the problem. And the h pawn might fall. There's some practical chance because at least the black king is on the rim, but after knight g6,
not anymore,
king
right?
g5 and king f6. Oh.
And it's the day of rook and knight, apparently. Slide out to Slide Talent there. Thank you for the sub. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the sub. But what a turn of events. We thought that John was already on his way of winning the game.
I think he was on the right track with this king to e5 plan. If we go back there, I think rook f4 was just a big mistake, but something like rook f8 instead to prevent this with a check from behind. I think this was the right plan, the winning technique, and okay, more analysis would tell, but that's not our job here. If you thought our job was chess analysis, you are wrong.
We are here to shout out your names in the Twitch chat, and shout out to everyone, by the way, tuning in for today's Battle Royale. I think we are already 2,401 viewers out there enjoying the chess action today in the Pro Chess League. And this is just the beginning. Next round is Fabiano Caruana versus Hikaru Nakamura.
I'm on the edge of my seat, and I will stay on the edge of my seat even during our very, very quick break. We're going to take a very, very, very quick break. Don't go anywhere to tighten up some stuff here. I got to throw more makeup on, right? All that stuff. So don't go anywhere. The 2019 Pro Chess League Battle Royale week will be back in just a moment. And we are back here, the Pro Chess League underway. The next round has begun. The matchup you're all waiting for will be starting in probably about T-minus 10-15 seconds. That'll be Hikaru Nakamura versus Fabiano Caruana. Right now we've got Eric Hansen versus Axel Bachmann on screen. And pretty exciting stuff here today. Standings on, I don't know that we would have predicted it at the start, but I did say a couple rounds ago to look for the mechanics to keep making noise, because even though it didn't look impressive after the first round, they had gotten some key strategic wins, right? Naroditsky, I would argue, is probably the strongest player in the Board 2 division, and I know you can say on paper that's not necessarily the case, but he started out beating the highest rated player on paper there, and I would say that Danya is up there in regards to chess talent, and so I'm not surprised to see the mechanics doing well, despite the fact that Sam Shanklin, in fact, another reason why the mechanics might really be a favorite to win the first Battle Royale, Sam Shanklin lost his first two games on board one against Caruana and Nakamura, and yet the mechanics are still here. So look for the mechanics to really have a big day.
So true, but I think everyone is waiting for the game of the day to start. It's Hikaru Nakamura versus Fabiano Caruana. And remember that there's a Photoshop contest, 1 year diamond membership that Danny has offered, very, very generous offer from Danny Ranch. The task is to create how the baby of Hikaru Nakamura and Fabiano Caruana would look like.
I don't think that's a weird thing to ask for at all. I just don't think that's weird. I think it makes sense. Caruana and Nakamura having a baby for chess purposes. It's science. It's just for science, okay? Anyway, all right, the game is going also with a lot of theory, as we've seen all the top boards, at least in the games we've covered closely here in the Battle Royale week, when these super high-rated grandmasters go at it, they're playing a lot of theory and really challenging each other. This is the kind of Ruy Lopez that you might see if these two guys were playing in Tata Steel or Gibraltar or any major event, right? This is a very well-known kind of position.
Indeed. So they're going for the very theoretical lines with the D3 setup that has become extremely popular, the anti-Berlin. Mentioning Berlin, I will ask you later about a certain former world champion's retirement and your feelings on that, but not during this game, because this is the game of the day.
Yeah.
Fabiano Caruana with the white pieces against Hikaru Nakamura, two of the top grandmasters in the world, facing each other.
Fabiano has played this move G3. Very interesting. I think it has a dual purpose to both open up the H4 square for the knight, now that the pawn would protect that knight, and even potentially to play things like King G2, and if this knight moves, maybe play F4 at some point. So Fabiano playing very fast, and I think for the first time has either surprised Hikaru or at least played for a plan here, Anna, that maybe Hikaru hasn't seen every day, right? So these guys don't take time, especially in rapid settings, unless they know they need it. And so the fact that Fabiano is up a minute on the clock against Hikaru is kind of telling. And this move G3, the first interesting one really that has my eye caught here. I really like this plan of knight H4 for Fabiano. What do you think?
I like it too for knight H4 heading toward the F5 square. He can also push F4 later on. I'm wondering what should be the plan for black. I think that's less obvious than white's one. Bishop E7 I like because it prevents knight H4, but here comes Harry going to H4. Harry 4.
No, it's a good point. Bishop E7 was played to stop knight H4, but then here comes Harry. H4 and H5 played very quickly by Caruana. Hikaru freeing the F8 square for probably a number of pieces to share. Maybe the knight can come to F8 and then to E6. And you also open up ideas that the bishop might use this square F8 just to help defend things over here on the king side. But look at Caruana. I feel like he's on a mission here to say, I'm going to play as quickly as I need to beat Hikaru Nakamura. I mean, we know that there's a lot of... I don't want to just add controversy unnecessarily, but we know that there can be sometimes some differing opinions as far as Fabiano Caruana's strength in rapid in regards to how he compares and stacks up against his peers. We know that Magnus took the entire World Championship match, put it all on the line, thinking he was that much better than Caruana in rapid, and Hikaru has also said that Fabiano is just not as strong of a player in rapid and blitz, and so it's just interesting. I mean, look at how fast he's playing here. He's already up more than a minute on the clock.
Yeah, it kind of feels like he wants to prove that he
Yeah.
can do it. He's just as good in rapid chess as in classical chess. Certainly, he has been training a lot because Fabiano knew that for the World Championship match, he needed to improve his rapid skills. He didn't manage to improve it as much as Magnus at the level that Magnus has, but also the psychological part of the playoffs is really tough. So we don't know how is Fabiano's rapid chess at the moment. For sure, it's better than before. The question is how much better.
Yeah. No, it's true, and I think he has something to prove, and he's played this next move, knight h2, very quickly, coming into g4, where maybe it helps with an attack. It also opens up the g4 square for the queen. Okay, no, he fills it with the knight first, but I think is correct, because if we get a trade here, you could still take back with the knight and then use the f5 square with the queen also coming to g4 to hit g7. And you could even take on e3 with the pawn, and as ugly as those two Peshki look there, the f file is very useful for white on the king side, and so I think that white has an edge strategically here. It's very, very small. The question is whether his edge in knowledge will also prove against Hikaru, because I think if you look at the clock, again, Hikaru doesn't make a habit of getting down on time against anybody, so he knows he needs to figure this out. Doesn't want to get in a bad position against Caruana here. Okay, simple developing move. Queen e7 connects the rooks, right?
Yeah, I'm wondering what shall be here the follow-up for white. There are a few ideas. He can simply improve the queen, queen e2, queen d2 to connect the rooks. He can aim to push the f pawn to expand further on the king side. I really like white's position here. It's very comfortable and he has more space. But also to take it to the next level, to improve the position, it's gonna take a new plan because the knight is now well placed on g4. The bishop will be traded on e3, but he shall prove what is next,
Yep.
how to go. The bishop
Interesting.
d2 is
Bishop to
surprising.
d2. He just
This I didn't see for coming.
decides he no longer wants the trade. I wonder if there's
Yeah,
ideas to spy on h6. And I know he probably wasn't calculating it. That's a me problem. We know Danny always wants to sacrifice. But bishop takes, knight takes h6 check, and then knight f5 certainly had me looking just to make sure. But he does decide, even without a sack, that he wants to keep the bishop here. And I think one just main point here, Anna, is that if white can get f4, you're going to start to get new ways to bring the pieces to the king side. It's a very double-edged move, right? f4 will be a pawn you can't ever move back. And so, maybe Hikaru prepares for that. Okay, queen e6 is a move that maybe opens up the idea of f5 at some point. Also, like the other bishop retreating, queen e6 maybe opens bishop to e7, right? Using the c5 square for the knight. So there's a lot of little things these players are sort of jockeying for position right now, shuffling.
yeah. I like this idea of bishop d2. I didn't see it at all, but now I start to like it more because of the power of the pawn push f3, and later you might place the bishop on c3. Queen e2 connecting the rooks, preparing for f4. I wonder what shall Hikaru do, because certainly he is not the kind of player that will just sit and
Right.
wait for Fabiano to launch an attack.
But you make and
F5.
there you
That's
go.
a
He's not
Hikaru
going to
move.
just
That's
sit.
a Hikaru move.
Almost as if we planned it. That was perfectly well timed, because I think that whether that works or not, it is certainly what we would expect Hikaru to do in terms of stylistically. Even if objectively, black should maybe sit tight here. In a rapid setting, I actually tend to agree with Hikaru anyway, because regardless of whether f5 is the best objective move, when you're already down a little bit on the clock, you don't want to just sit there and let your opponent, kind of torture you with a slow play. So f5 is, but f5 is really double-edged. What does it do, right? It isolates the e pawn. Now white has a target. It also opens up the king and potentially the light squares. It does open the f file and the threat of h5, but now this is really heating up because white plays f4 and he's immediately going after the e5 pawn. And by the way, rook takes h5, I think is just met by, okay, there's a number of moves, but even just taking e5 with a discovery on the rook on h5 might be possible for white. So this is about to become super double-edged.
It is. The position has opened up, and we shall see if f5 was a good move. It certainly was a Hikaru move. We don't know how objectively good it was, but he is creating counterplay now, doubling rooks on the f5. The problem for black also is this pin on the e5. That's why he can't react to the pawn push f4. A rook coming to e1 or bishop c3 would be ways to put more pressure on the e5 pawn.
Yeah,
So
and
rook
you may end up
a4.
being able to steal this h-pawn, even as dangerous as it looks, as Grandmaster Blue Wizard just points out in the Chess TV chat, and I was about to follow up and say I agree, because as I highlighted that knight takes e5 might be possible for the discovery for white, even a simple move for the to protect the rook, like rook f5, I'm saying it's slightly unsure, but there's no like immediate knockout there for white, right? It's not maybe as
Yeah.
bad as it looks, and so I think I think Hikaru is taking yet again a little bit of time on the clock to calculate things like this and maybe see if he can do it.
Interesting to see Hikaru being behind on the clock. Not
Yeah.
such a big difference, but yeah, it is. It is strange. Hikaru usually is a very fast player. Fabiano the other way around, but in this game, Caruana, I think it's partially what you have said, Danny, that Hikaru basically was highlighting that it would be strange to have a world champion that doesn't have the same skills
Well,
in rapid
uh,
Swiss chess as in classical chess.
Anna, I have
So,
to
but
interrupt with two things. One, thank you, Blue Wizard. Rook takes h5, knight takes e5, loses on the spot to queen h3 check,
oh,
so thank you for that. But secondly, I also had to say that the reason Hikaru was taking time on the clock is because he went to the bathroom. We have eyewitnesses
oh,
on his stream. So as we were sitting there trying to imply that Hikaru was actually using his time, turns out Hikaru was just going to the bathroom. He was on camera, and that was the only reason he used his time, because rook takes h5, as Blue Wizard pointed out, was totally good for black.
wow.
So there you go.
So there we go. There's of course Hikaru is streaming. So those of you who follow his channel, you do know that he has abandoned his
That's right.
seat.
And
Now we
there's
know why. Now we know why.
we have a Hikaru sighting. He is back at the stream. He is back at his board. So welcome back, Hikaru. All right.
Welcome
Well,
back.
yeah, the bathroom gambit, as Abaddon says in the Chess TV chat. So anyway, rook goes back to f5 quickly as soon as he gobbled this pawn, and so I like the fact that Hikaru was able to, jump in, right, steal the pawn and the knight, and to come right back to the f file. And from a practical point of view, he's not as down on the clock as he was. Now Fabiano's got some things to think about. This king on g2 is kind of feeling the draft, right? A little bit windy there now for the king, and I kind of like the way Hikaru approached this.
Yes, certainly it looks way better than before. F5 was certainly a risky decision to take, isolating his e5 pawn, but now with the double rooks on the f5 and the e5 pawn is not as stable as it could be, I think Hikaru has good chances in this game.
Yeah.
It's a trade on f5 now. Both rook takes and queen takes made sense.
You either got to go bishop c3, I think, to try to support d4. And Fabi goes for that. I agree. I think this was the right plan, because you can play queen e4 and then d4, d5. And I think that even though we're, obviously complimentary of the fact that Hikaru has almost evened it back on the clock and he kind of dealt with those tactics well, I'm not sure that white isn't still doing fine here. I think if the queen comes to e4 and d5 become a real threat, this e5 pawn it's passed, right? Okay, so Hikaru's going to be all in and try to get rid of it. And very nice. Look at this. He goes for a forcing combination to stop exactly the idea we were just talking about. D4 will no longer be easy for white. And wow, okay, now they're going to be playing so fast, it's going to be hard to accurately predict. But they are kind of playing for what we thought would happen. But I'm starting to agree with what you said earlier, Anna. The e5 pawn seems to be well blockaded. Black can play maybe g5 and then the knight to g6 behind the pawn, possibly.
Yeah, that's possible. Rook f7 now to unpin the queen. So if there's a trade on e6, the black knight will be very well placed on e6. That's a blockading piece. After the pawn has been pushed to c5, Hikaru made sure that d4, d5 was not coming. So I think he has played very precisely that stage of the game. And now rook d7, forcing the issues whether white wants to trade on e6, and that will be a nice endgame for black. Or the queen will have to abandon the d5 square. Queen f3 now.
But whether he ultimately likes his endgame or not, Hikaru apparently does like the song that he's listening to, as he is now singing and dancing on his stream. And so there's nothing but instructive chess here on our stream. But if you're into Super Grandmasters dancing, you can go to another stream as well. All right. Queen to a8. I think the rook can come. Okay, he goes to e7. I was wondering if you could go back to f7 and kind of induce e6. with the idea that the pawn might have wandered too far. But okay, Hikaru says he'll just stop it with rook e7. Also,
Yeah,
I guess
and
pretty
if
good
rook
because there's
f1,
still a
rook
threat of h4
e8.
coming. Sorry, what?
That if white plays rook f1, he's going to play rook e8, chase the queen away
Uh-huh.
from the back rank, and later black can start his attack with h4.
Yeah, I was going to say, here comes h4. Um, you would like, I guess you'd like to play rook e8 anyway because you don't want this knight to be pinned to the queen. And now you can fill the e6 square with a new blockade. And again, g5 is coming, followed by king f7, king g6, king f5. It feels very straightforward here. In fact, maybe Hikaru just plays king f7 right away. Okay, bishop e3 has one plan on it. I think he wants to play c3 and d4.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be Fabiano's idea. Because if you don't do anything here as white, here comes king f7, king g6. So yeah, Fabi goes for this.
Well predicted, and now the other c pawn tries to prevent the
but I
launch of
think
these
Hikaru has
pawns.
done a very good job here. This move c6 is so nice. It stops d5, and what he's pointing out here, everyone, is that if you take c5, I'll just take back with the pawn. These pawns may be ugly ducklings, but now I have the d file. And again, this rook and bishop are just sort of useless. So this is why Hikaru is so good in fast time controls. His intuition and his ability to quickly understand, I think, and calculate accurately enough. Obviously, Hikaru calculates. If you haven't seen Puzzle Rush, he's pretty good at calculating. But he just intuitively, I think his intuition and his strategic understanding of just like where the pieces need to be within a given structure is not given enough credit. Because yes, he calculates like a monster. We know Hikaru does that, but he also just has very, very quick recognition of the right setup. The fact that he quickly played this move g5 and knew that he could stop d4 with c6, just laughing in the face of the double pawns, I think it's just a brilliant approach here from Hikaru, and I think he's going to win this game. I think he's going to play king f7, bring the king up to f5, and I think black is doing well. Yep, here he goes.
I love it. And he has won the pawn already on d4 because Fabiano decided to activate his rook. He wants to get the b6 pawn. Perhaps it could be the right way, but the king is still coming. So king e6 and capturing the
I do like it. I think he knows he's losing, right? He gave up the d pawn, but now he's going for we call it active defense, right? You'd rather be down a pawn in a rook ending than completely busted in a knight versus bishop equal pawn ending, right? So, Hikaru may be up a pawn, but Fabi's saying, I'm no longer going to wait passively. I'm going to try to get active with my rook. I think it's the right idea.
Yeah, it's definitely what you should do if you're in a worse position. Activate all your pieces. Try to get active counterplay instead of just sitting and waiting for the opponent to promote his pawns. Still, king e6, I think, looks like a promising move because black can't defend the b6 pawn.
I agree.
So king e6, then king takes e5.
I wonder what else he's calculating. If there's some sort of idea that he might be trying to move the knight on it and then bring the rook to d2. Like, I'm starting to think Hikaru's starting to smell blood here, something like this. And then the rook come in, and maybe I go for a mating net. Yeah, in fact, I think this is what he played knight e6. I think he he plays c5, but here comes the rook to d2, and he's going to try for things like even g4 and knight g5 and bring the knight in with a potential attack. I think this is what he wants.
Yeah, it does look like he's going for some tactical ideas. King e6 I still like, but this can of course be good as well with the rook on the second rank and then the knight coming in. The problem is the a pawn is lost, so white will have counterplay because of this passed pawn, the a passed pawn. So the rook should move away from a5 and start pushing the a pawn as quickly as he can.
Even though somehow white is still kind of hasn't gone on full tilt yet and not losing, this is just such a difficult position to play. I mean, you look at the fact that black is bringing the king in on the light squares, that there's the c4 pawn's also hanging, but you expect at some point the king will come to f5, holding the knight who holds everybody else, and white is just praying that there's no concrete breakthrough against this bad king and bishop over here.
Yeah, I wonder what will be the result of this endgame, because I really thought that Hikaru was on his way of winning, but now with the a pawn giving some counter chances for white, it's it's a draw.
Why would they just agree to a draw?
Okay, let's try to analyze this. So after knight c7, the rook will need to abandon. You can stay on a5 if rook a7 or move the rook away, but the a6 pawn is dropping anyway. So what is the point? Why
Well, apparently
Why
Hikaru
Hikaru
was saying that he was, it was irritating that it was going to end in a draw. And in the final position, I can kind of see what's happening because after knight c7, rook a7, you don't ever really want to take on a6 with the knight. I think because then e6 and you're all pinned up, right? The knight on a6 can't move to the rook, and
Yeah.
so I'm guessing this was the point. And if you're not going to take the pawn, you go back to d5, and then what do we have? We just have a perpetual, right? Something like this. And so I can see that, but I still believe that Hikaru must have lost sight of something there. With the rook coming into d2 and a5 falling, was there no more concrete way to go after some sort of attack against the king and bishop here? Maybe g4, maybe a quick run of the king. I don't know. I mean, obviously I'm just implying that I felt like black was better and certainly felt like what Hikaru was going to get, but could be wrong. A game that is also all wrong for Sam Shanklin. He just lost to Jeffrey Zhang, and it rhymes. Oh man. Jeffrey Zhang helped Sam Shanklin's day get even worse here. So he lost his first couple games to the top two players in the Group 1 field, that being Nakamura and Caruana, if you're just joining us, everyone. But now Sam, the reigning U.S. champion, has lost to yet another American Grandmaster, and so not the best day for Sam Shanklin trying to help lead the mechanics here.
Yeah, not the best day at all. As we mentioned, he was playing in the Tata Steel chess tournament, which finished just a few days ago, so he may be having jet lag still. But, well, it's part of the game. It's part of the game that he had to take a flight back home and play today.
Let's check over here on this game between Penguin GM and Squirrel Lulz. Peter Roberson, Squirrel Lulz, is down on the clock, which is never someone's favorite place to be against Andrew Tang. He's pretty fast.
Oh, certainly not. Yeah.
How much of an advantage does White have here, though, besides on the clock? I don't know if he has any, because actually it's super awkward here for White. There's threats of both the skewer on the bishops and rook c1. By the way, we have a skewer emote now, if you haven't used that in a while.
Ooh.
I know, it's
I
even
gotta
more
check
fun
it
than
out.
the pin emote.
I know the pin and the fork.
There you go.
Skewer.
Yeah.
How cool
I know, right? These are the things that they pay me the big bucks for.
Same amount. Look at that, Danny. We have.
Emote.
Oh no, you have more. I thought we are like twins because we used the same emote almost the same amount of times.
There you go. We did it back to back.
Yay!
Whoa. Tang is willing to part with the bishops for the rook versus the two minor pieces, but this is one that only black can win if you don't include the clock, I think.
True.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, I mean, I guess the idea that g4 and f5 is coming is maybe harder to deal with than I thought. Here comes some point. If this bishop leaves g4, look for g4 and f5. Okay. Tang doesn't want to lose the f-pawn, so he gives check instead of trading on a6. Yeah, something happened here earlier. It seems like maybe black did indeed have something better. Yeah, after rook h4, knight to g6 instead of taking everything was just winning for black.
Rook b6 and the bishop drops, so black resigns.
You got to hand it to Tang because regardless of the fact that rook h4 should have lost on the spot to knight g6, and actually white is just completely losing, he recognized two things. One, his opponent maybe didn't have enough time to find this right move, and two, even if he's losing, he didn't just want to sit tight, which I think from a practical point of view is how you win games that you're not supposed to win.
Yeah.
You got to make sure you put pressure on your opponent. So Tang got away with one here. He played rook h4 and basically tricked his opponent into this endgame where, especially under the time pressure, black was not able to hold. So good win there for the Blizzard.
Impressive turn of events, and Andrew Tang saving a game where he was lost. That was a very important point for the Blizzard.
Shout out to all 2,400 of you with us right now.
Shout out to everyone.
Yeah, Casey, Bill, I'm not watching Hikaru, but I'm not surprised. I agree. I think Hikaru should have won that game. That's the kind of game where, he rarely lets his opponents off the hook, even if they are Fabiano Caruana. So I'm not surprised that he's a little frustrated with that. And I was predicting a win for him. So shame on you, Hikaru. Win for me, if nothing else.
Yeah, Casey's saying that Hikaru is still grinding over that game, thinks that he has missed something.
Well, the last one still going is the game between Zhu Jinner and Josiah Stearman. Looks like white's just up a rook, so that's probably not ideal for black. And then okay, we're gonna have a very, very quick win here, which will be huge for the mechanics. Oh no, Zhu Jinner is actually white.
Playing for the Dallas Destiny. And well, usually it's easy to win games with a rook up, and that's what she's doing. Nicely played. Okay. Well done to you.
Indeed, the win for the Stars there, who I guess have kind of, snuck their way into the top of the leaderboard, although, to be fair, we were critical of the Archbishops for the majority of the first part of the day, and now they also are right back where they've spent most of the 2019 Pro Chess League, which is atop of the standings. So you see there the Bishops and the Chess Bras, although the Bishops now in third place, are typically amongst the leaders in the Atlantic Division, and along with a lot of the teams in the West there. Of course, we can also see the Pacific, the Dallas Destiny in the middle, but if they manage to finish near the top, would be really quite the good turnaround for them in the standings in the Pacific. So, all right, well, we have just a few moments here before the next round of play gets underway, but it's in the books. Nakamura has played Caruana. It feels like I'm feeling a little unsatisfied.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly right? For Hikaru, he does feel that he may have missed something, and his position looks so promising. I think f5 was a very Hikaru decision, and it was the right decision in hindsight. We don't know the objective evaluation of that move, but that was the move that changed the game, the nature of the position, because before that, Fabiano had a very comfortable position. He had the initiative. But f5 and then on, it became just so double-edged, and Hikaru understood better the complexity of that position, the dynamic. Somehow it slipped out of his hands in the end game.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, it can happen, but maybe in hindsight, a little bit more time should have been taken there. But either way, while we have a few moments before the next set of games get going, let's remind everybody of some of the ways they can stay involved in the Pro Chess League even when the games are not live. You can do that by holding your mouse over the Twitch player right now if you're watching at twitch.tv/chess, and just go ahead and click that little extension button. You can follow both me and Anna as well at our personal Twitch channels, but really we want you to go follow the Twitch Pro Chess League channel. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook and all of the games yourself just by logging on to chess.com in the live server. There you go. There's the command for it. So the shows are always going in regards to the Pro Chess League, even if we're not live. We have a highlights show weekly that both discusses some of the fun things that have already happened and tries to do their best job to predict what's coming up next. That's International Master Levy Rosman and Wouter Bick. And I think some of the most underrated and unfortunately not as found yet content on the web for the Pro Chess League has been David Pruis's just super instructive lectures, diving into some of the moments that Anna and I, for example, don't get a chance to cover as deeply as we would like because we got to move from one game to another. So PCL also stands for Pro Chess Lessons when it comes to David Pruis's content. You can go to youtube.com/Pro Chess League and make sure you give us a subscribe there and start diving into that. All right, the next round of games are underway. Look how it was almost like we're professionals right there. Like, did you guys feel that? I started eating
while you were talking, so I'm that professional. I eat when I'm not on camera.
No, you did great. Mainly because our timing just worked out. I don't know. I mean, we also want you on camera, but we had a lot of images to show, and the timing worked out. So
off camera. But here we go. This is round 5 of today. There are 7 rounds in the Battle Royale. This is the group 1. So the action is just beginning. Then we will have the next group with Robert Hess and Alexandra Botes. Don't go anywhere. I'm looking at the game between Sergei Movsesian and Fabiano Caruana. It's my favorite opening. Fabiano.
I know we have to go there as much as it pains me. We have to go to Fabiano Caruana's game versus Sergei Movsesian because it's a. Go ahead, you can say it.
The French defense is the best opening in the world.
It's the French, All right, well, we know Fabiano likes to dabble in the French from time to time.
The devil.
A little bit. Sometimes he dabbles. But tell us, Anna, what exactly about this particular line is good for Black, or take us through here We had an interesting variation with the move bishop e7 on move 4, if we can bring
Yeah.
up the analysis board. And after knight f6, e5, what about this line catches your eye as somebody who plays the French all the time? Can we
Bishop
show the
e7 is one of
analysis
my
board?
favorite lines against the Tarrasch, and this particular line with the early b6 and bishop a6 is a side line, but it's an interesting one because usually the problem piece in the French defense is the c8 bishop, the large square bishop of black. So getting rid of it, exchanging it for the attacking piece of white, the d3 bishop is usually a very strong piece in white's position.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good strategic deal. The drawback of this is that the knight is on a6, so it's going to take a couple of.
Maybe we lost Anna. Apologies
Yeah.
if so. But there she's
Oh,
back.
am I here? Am I here?
You're here,
Oh,
you're
sorry.
here. And we
Oh.
caught, I think, 99% of what you said. But yeah, as you said, black is eliminating the normally bad bishop with bishop a6, but sort of I guess the compensation white gets, or the compromise, is that you temporarily put your knight on this bad square of a6. If I'm just trying to help finish your sentences here, right?
Yeah, I apologize for my internet connection. I know that today it's been struggling. I have just traveled to Santiago, so I didn't have that much time to check if this is the best possible internet condition. But for next time, I promise, I will make sure that it's even better.
That's okay. That's okay.
I was
But I
told
think we finished each other's sentences well there, and as you said, black has eliminated the worst piece on the board, but has had to lose some time with the knight coming back and forth, and now Movsesian, excuse me. I had Ituri Zog on the brain because he's playing Hikaru, and I have that game, the side rear view here. Okay, but Queen e4, and then the knight comes back to a6. Okay, despite the fact that we know it's the French, your favorite, and Fabiano's playing black, do you not like white here? I mean, what are your thoughts about this position?
Well, it's difficult to be objective now, actually. I like White's position. It's more space. I'm a fan of having more space.
Right.
Queen in the center. Everything that I praised earlier in the show, White has it. And now after Rook d1, the d-file is about to be open. So yeah, the French defense has its drawbacks to say, and Fabiano didn't get many good positions out of the opening. Not today. Danny, are you happy to see another French defense not being a very nice position for black?
I mean, obviously we like to have our fun and poke at different openings and positions we like and don't like. But again, I don't really have any bias, believe it or not, other than the fact that I don't prefer those types of positions as black, as you know. But in this case, I think we both like white mainly because the time that black lost in order to rid himself of this bad bishop, now bringing the knight to c7 to try to make up for that undeveloped pony, you may not be able to recover if the attack continues to get really crazy over here on the king side with bishop h6 coming. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll let you kind of steer the way here. Black plays f5. That's normally a very double-edged decision, right? You're trying to stop the attack, but if I en passant, now e6 is a new weakness, right?
Indeed, I think f5 is usually a move that if black has to play f5, it's not a good sign because, as Danny has pointed out, the e6 pawn becomes permanently weak. It's an isolated pawn, a backward pawn. And I'm pretty sure that Sergei Movsesian will take on f6. I wonder why it's taking him so much time. Maybe he also likes the option of playing queen g3 and keeping the tension, but I would certainly take and claim that now there's not that much attack on the king side, but the pawn on e6 is really problematic. And not just the pawn, actually, but the e5 square. So the e5 square is an outpost for white's knights, and the e6 pawn is a weakness. So it's not only about pawns, it's also about the squares.
Okay.
I like queen h3 because it keeps an eye on the e6 pawn and also the h7 square. Knight g5 is a
there may be ideas like knight g5, right?
Yeah, and after queen e5, we gotta move the knight from c4, but the e5 square is a perfectly nice place for this knight. So knight c, e5, and then knight g5. I'm loving this position for white, actually.
Yeah, and again, it's just probably the best case scenario for black is eliminate the c for the d pawn, and hopefully the e pawn doesn't become the biggest issue on the board. If it does, white will just end up being up material. There are some practical things though about black's position. I mean, Okay, the F file is open. White is still, at least at this point, officially not completed development yet. The bishop on c1. So if there's
Mm.
some timing that black can take advantage of, and to be more concrete about what I'm saying, I think that there's maybe a threat of knight e4 coming in some positions.
Yeah, by the way, shout out to John Urschel. John is also a big fan of the opening that Fabiano has chosen for this game. John, if you are just joining us, Fabiano played the French defense and he is suffering in this position, so it's not the best model game. We may not study it on Friday, next Friday, I mean. And Georg Meyer, I think Georg Meyer is also here with us, Grandmaster Georg Meyer, who is one of the players I always follow when I want to study the French defense. His games are my model games.
There you go. You have another French lover in the chat there with John. What's up, John? Shout out again to everybody that's with us, not just John Urschel. We got NJ Gregg. I see we have Cash Menk here. All of our mods helping to make sure that things go as smoothly as possible. By the way, love the emote there. That was my idea to put Georg Mayer's in the heart, face in the heart that it deserves whenever John Urschel is on
love
screen.
it.
So,
That's a beautiful emote. And both John and Georg, they both deserve it, this emote.
All right, well, Bishop e2 is played. We don't have to stick just on this game just so we see the inevitable defeat of the French. Just kidding. No, actually, Fabiano seems to have worked his way back into a pretty interesting position. This use of the pin on the d file is kind of critical right now, right? Holding black's whole position together, you can't do anything without d1 being a problem, and that prevents white from focusing on maybe the e6 pawn being weak. So I actually like black's position much more than I did a few moves ago.
Yes, maybe this is a bit too slow, b3, bishop b2, or simply black was okay. It's always very concrete with the e6 weakness, and if black can compensate for it with active pieces, but certainly in this moment, it does look like Fabiano is doing a good job coming up with a dynamic counterplay with the rook and the queen on the d file. Now, the question is how perhaps knight 4. That is a nice move, nice square for the knight. Also, it gives more activity to the rook. Queen h5. Well, it's a possibility. If queen takes, knight takes.
I like it actually. Getting the queens off the board, opening the f file. I think that without any pressure immediate against the e6 pawn, black is less worried, although unless there's something really concretely bad about the knight being over here on h5, the knight comes into e5, maybe into c6, concrete. Okay.
Yeah, so, but perhaps you're right that there's nothing concrete, even though the knight makes it to the e5 square. The black knight will jump to f4, the other knight can come to d5, there's pressure on the f2 pawn. So it does look like Fabiano is surviving this position.
For now. Right? For now. No, I'm kidding. All right, let's go back to Hikaru's game versus Iturizaga. Hikaru is now white versus the well-known Miami Champions player here. And he's just played this interesting move b4, trying to pry open things for the rook to get on the c file. Back to where he normally is, that being up on the clock. Hikaru is used to that.
Yes.
Where's it coming next?
And he was facing his former team, the Miami Champions. So he used to play for the Champions, and now he's back playing for the Seattle Sluggers.
That's true. It's a good storyline, right? Yeah, Hikaru started out his pro chess league career back in 2017 playing for the Champions as a free agent, and now back with the Seattle Sluggers where he feels at home.
Yeah, I think it was the Sluggers first, then Champions, and back to the Sluggers. So, yeah, he has definitely picked his favorite team for this season. He's still streaming, so that means that half of you guys are watching his stream instead of us, but okay, we may forgive you. We may forgive you for that.
Probably a lot of people watch both streams too, and as they should, right? There's a lot of great streamers streaming the Pro Chess League. You can also check out twitch.tv/chessbra. They're covering their own point of view, although it hasn't been their best day of it so far. But the Chess Bras are doing very well on the season. Okay, the transition has happened where the c file is exchanged for the passed a pawn. Objectively, probably black is fine here. I feel like from a practical point of view, it's really hard not to get excited about Hikaru's position. Here comes rook c7, the king is already active, and the clock. But I think that Ichirizaga's a-pawn is probably just fine. Because does white really have enough time? No, he doesn't, right? White doesn't really have enough time to play rook c7, as Hikaru just kind of proves with the move rook a3, right? So
Yeah, and the problem is that this a4 pawn is a protected pawn. Now the bishop is coming to b5. Black is really active.
yeah,
If I had to choose, I would probably pick black because of the pawn.
I agree. Yeah, the more we look at it, I don't know where Hikaru may have pushed too hard, or maybe he didn't, but he might just have to settle on a draw. If black goes back to the threat of rushing the a-pawn, is there anything better than just blockading? Okay,
Oh,
Hikaru doesn't want to draw yet.
repeat.
The issue I have with this is that after the move rook, I was going to say rook a to a7, he played it before I could highlight it. Now I can play rook c7. So the issue with Hikaru's approach is he's lost the ability to challenge the c file. Here comes the rook to c7, and now you're either running back to the blockade but giving me an entry point, or you're trading, and in that case, now you don't have the two rooks to stop my passed a-pawn. So I like Ichirizaga's position, and let's not be too shocked about that. I mean, Ichirizaga is not Hikaru Nakamura as far as his name recognition, but he's a very strong rapid player, has played in the Pro Chess League since its inception, and typically is one of the most consistent performers. Even playing on the top board, Anna, where he often has to go up against guys like Hikaru Nakamura, right? So don't be surprised if Ichirizaga can hold his own here. So
I agree with you with everything that you have said, that Ichirizaga is a very dangerous player, especially in rapid chess and in blitz chess. And this position, after Hikaru not repeating moves, perhaps he should have gone for the draw. But we know that Hikaru's approach is, well, I'm going to go for the win. I have more time. He's got 7 minutes on the clock, twice as much as Ichirizaga. So it's logical that he wants to play, but maybe he's taking a bit of a risk that was not necessary.
I think we have one game we should definitely go look at. Okay, we know there's these top big names we've been following. Fabiano seems to be doing well in the French, but we'll keep our eye on that. The game I think that a lot of people want to see who know of these two players from their online streaming efforts, Eric Hansen and Daniel Naroditsky. Naroditsky being with the white pieces. Seems to have a small edge there on the B file, but it's a dynamic one here. The knight on e5, the potential attack on the king side. I wonder if you can move it and try to win the dark square bishop. So your thoughts on who's better here?
Oh, usually when I see a rook at the 7th rank, I would say white, but let me analyze the rest of the pieces. So just for the fact that white has managed to control the open b file.
Quickly, we should mention that Hikaru did indeed draw Ichirizaga.
Okay. So at least it wasn't too much of a risk what he played. It was still a draw endgame. But great game by both players, and Ichirizaga holding his own, even trying to win that position against Hikaru. If we are discussing the position that Eric has against Daniel Naroditsky, I was thinking that, I like a lot how the heavy pieces of white are placed, but there's compensation for black, I believe, because of the more space in the center. This very well plays knight on e5, and it's not so easy to break through. For instance, if rook takes c7, queen takes c7, white still hasn't achieved anything. Now, knight c4 is forcing the trade of the bishops. Bishop takes, queen takes, rook takes is kind of a forced variation if white wants to trade everything.
Okay, no, it doesn't. There's no immediate tactics to win a pawn. I was looking at some opportunity to expose the maybe the pawn on d5 being overloaded to guard everything, but it looks like Eric calculated it well, and there's no concrete thing to do. And I guess the one real nice thing about the knight on c4 is that if everybody gets traded and white hasn't achieved anything, this knight immediately hits the a3 pawn, right? So, I mean, knight c4 points out that, okay, if you just make a huge trade and don't get anything, in the end, the tables have turned, and black is better in an endgame where the knight immediately has this a3 pawn as a target. So, nice move there with knight c4.
Yeah, I think it's good that Eric is going for the endgame, and also just getting rid of the pair of bishops, and then keeping this really well-placed knight on e5 so he can jump back to e5 when he wants to. The g2 bishop is not an active piece. So white will try to open up the diagonal for the bishop somehow, but it's not so easy to push f3 nor play h4, bishop h3, and come through the e6 or d7 squares with the bishop.
So many games now hitting the books. You'll see the scoreboard as it begins to be updated. We'll just note here. Ooh, so this was the move I was wondering if it was possible, and he goes for it, but at the cost of a piece. So Naroditsky, from what I can tell, maybe just making a practical decision about time, about the difficulties of playing an open king,
Wow.
right? With the both the pressure on d5 as well as the 7th rank. I think objectively it's hard to believe that this sacrifice should be great for white, but from a practical point of view, this might be much harder for Eric to play than for Danya.
Yeah, and Naroditsky has more time on the clock, so certainly that is a detail he has taken into account. But this is a piece up for black, so if Eric can defend well, then he could just simply win the game. Depends how this position. c6, of course, this is dangerous because there's a c-pass pawn. The black king is vulnerable. But, wow.
But yeah, I mean, objectively, you're like, really? Like, can you do this? But, I mean, this is going to be super tricky. We will note that Fabiano Caruana's game is also in the books. He did indeed draw that game there with the French. So a big win for the French in that it drew, right?
Yeah. Well... the French defense is a good opening.
I'm kidding. No, a win there. Sorry, not a win, but a draw for Fabiano with the black pieces there. Not a bad result. Okay, rook e4.
Yes, so the queen has to either abandon the long diagonal or the d file.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? As Anna said, the queen can't both keep an eye on d5 and try to play for something like queen a7, right? Which looks to be the first instinct you want to consider a move like that. But if there's no concrete threat, you've given up your pressure on the d5 pawn. In fact, there might even be rook takes e2 on queen a7, because then rook h7 is met by queen takes f2, and black is forcing everybody off the board. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think Eric calculated rook e4 well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Later, he should also find a way to face c7 and rook b8. That's the plan that white wants to carry out, to make use of this pass pawn. It's still a complex position, but Naroditsky is going down on the clock. It's going to be a thrill. It could be any result. 3 possible results in this position. Yeah. Both players down on clock for 2 minutes. I'm predicting 0-1.
Let's check quickly on this game with John Bartholomew, Finzo905 versus Jimbo, because there's a second queen on the board, right? As I said, I was peering it with the 2-pass pawns and like, what's about to happen here? And then before you know it, we have a promotion. Okay, likely we're going to see a forced trade where black takes on d8 and then queen takes c6, but instead black says, I'm going to let you keep your second queen for now. Obviously, there's a threat of bishop takes g2 check.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing, whoa, is that enough?
Oh, but
wow.
Queen takes d8, bishop takes g2.
I was going to say, is that enough for black to just be winning? It looks like it is. Even e7, but now, at least temporarily, black is the one up a piece.
I don't buy this. I don't think that white has time for this. I mean,
the one thing you don't want to blunder here if you're black, I was just considering queen f2 to checkmate on g2,
queen
but
f2,
there's...
Yeah, queen f2 threatening 2 different mates. Queen g7 and queen takes g2 and queen takes e1. This is a puzzle rush moment. Queen f2, queen f2.
Queen f2. But I was wondering if you can you promote to a knight with check? Check your under promotion settings. Okay, queen to c2 kind of does the same thing though, because now you still have this idea.
Yeah, what
no, but I guess you're right. You don't.
Yeah, but she wanted to keep the rook protected. Now she takes on g2.
Oh, she's queen e4 and then rook c1. Speaking of puzzle rush, bananas finish right there.
What
wow,
an obsession.
Zhu Jinner just crushes her way through. What an amazing finish to that game.
So many upsets by Zhu. Congratulations to the player of the Dallas Destiny Women International Master, Zhu Jinner. John Bartholomew, it's a heartache, of course, for all the fans of John, including myself. I'm a big fan of Teams Candy. But what an upset, and congratulations to the young lady.
And you were right with this queen f2 combination being puzzle rush material, just to show everybody.
Totally puzzle rushed. What about Eric's game? Because that's also a puzzle rush game.
Absolutely. Let's go there real quick. Just wanted to show the final combination in case some of our viewers couldn't see it to the
Hmm.
mate, but there you have it. After rook to b8, Danya Naroditsky's going to win back the queen that he's now down, and maybe the c-pawn is unstoppable. This has become a position
Wow.
where we thought maybe white was worse, but up on the clock. Now I think white's just winning. Here comes c7.
Yep, c7, and black has to give up his
Wow.
knight for the pawn.
Danya swindled his way. We left the position after queen takes d4. Black defended d5, and on c6, Eric played rook e4, and I thought queen a7 was going to be met by rook takes e2, with the idea that rook takes h7 with queen takes f2, but instead Danya, instead after rook a8, well, actually, maybe rook a8 was just a blunder, actually, so maybe Eric should have played the move rook takes e2.
Hmm.
The idea, everybody, I highlighted a few moments before it happened was that there is no threat on the 7th rank because black can just force everybody off the board. But instead, Eric played rook a8, which I think ultimately was the blunder that cost him the game. Danya sacrifices, immediately wins the material back, and then the power of the c-pawn is just too much. He's winning in the rook ending, and he goes on to win. Wow. Huge swindle there from Naroditsky, and a big win for the mechanics, a tough loss for the chess bras. Wow.
It has been a really exciting game. It could have gone either way. No time for the players. Complex mess on the position. It was a pizza for Eric, but with a C plus.
Let's quickly move things over here to Andrei Gorovets' game versus Penguin GM Andrew Tang. And because it seems like Gorovets' pawns should be faster than Tang's, but with no time on the clock. Well, I mean, Tang is also the one down on time, so I think he's actually just in big trouble here. King f3. You don't want to take the f4 pawn because then g2 is unstoppable, but knight d6 and c7 looks like it does the trick.
Yeah, and that's a queen.
Yeah, and with that, I mean, even moves like queen takes f4 or queen takes c5 and b7 are enough. And wow, Andrei Gorovets takes the big win there for the Stars, who continue to be, I don't want to say a surprising storyline, but they haven't been a dominant team throughout the whole year, right? And now they're in this, board versus board super fest that is the Battle Royale. They're really holding their own. And the Stars may end up winning it all here today as we move into the final sets of games. 13.5 right now.
Yeah, it's really impressive how well the Dallas Destiny is doing. What is surprising to me is that one of the clear leaders of the Pro Chess League after 3 weeks, the Montreal Chess Bros, they are doing so poorly today. And as we have mentioned, today there are more points up for grab than on a usual week of the Pro Chess League. So it can change the standings completely. But after today, you may see the Chess Bros not leading. You may see some of the bottom teams climbing up for the qualification spots for the knockout. So anything can happen. Anything can happen.
It's amazing, and again, it's not necessarily something we're super surprised about based on we've been kind of talking about this since the show started today, that without Ivan Saric on board 1 and Eric Hansen where he's been all year on board 3, how would the Chess Bros fare? So definitely a day where they're kind of missing their regular lineup, if we're being completely honest about it. But okay, the day is not over yet, and if they can finish anywhere in the middle of the standing, it's still a decent amount of points.
Yeah, that is true. Is there still a game going? Yeah, there's one game going that I see in this round. Cristobal Enriquez against Conrad Holt.
Looks like White should be able to get this one, right?
Yeah, usually with a piece up, unless the pawn disappears.
I was wondering if there's some weird draw coming, but surprised by this. Although I guess knight e4. Okay, then I come to f3 and e5 with check.
It should be made soon.
Wait.
Oh, what about the g pawn?
Okay.
Okay, he stops it with g6, but
you have to be very careful here. Things like knight e5 will allow rook takes f6 check and then getting a queen. I don't feel like this was the cleanest approach here that White could have taken. Suddenly the pieces are sort of stuck.
And White is repeating moves.
Yeah, I mean this is
one more time. I can't believe
he goes for it. Now it makes sense. You can't take f6 because he takes with check, but it's just a draw anyway.
Whoa.
Wow, what a misplayed finish there. It was super hard, obviously, on White, given that he didn't have a lot of time. But I think the victory could have been much cleaner for White than what was taken. Rook h6 felt like the wrong approach as compared to something with knight e4, but ultimately, okay, even something like king f3 in this position, and on g2, rook to g2. No, but then king h1. This was quite tricky, actually.
Yeah, it wasn't as simple as but well, it is. I mean, what a save by Conrad Holt. Half a point more for his team. That was Destiny.
And
the
again,
Blizzards.
I mean,
wow,
a big game for the Stars, right? Conrad Holt has his stars right there. I mean, the fact that they have Jeffrey Zhang on board one, and we know that those who followed the Pro Chess League closely for years, and even the predecessor U.S. Chess League we often refer to, know that Conrad has played for the Dallas Stars for a long time, but he hasn't always had Jeffrey Zhang on board one, I don't think. Jeffrey really has advanced over the last few years, become the super strong grandmaster he is, and so with Zhang on board one, I think it relieves a lot of pressure for Conrad, and he's definitely a board two that's going to be difficult for a lot of people to deal with. So the Stars performing very well and seem to have a lineup that they need. So, all right, we have a small break in the action. Anna, what should we talk about?
Chocolate break.
Chocolate break. We know you need it. Well, let's take a super quick break. A 30-second step off camera. Let Anna get some chocolate. Right? We don't want a chocolate fit here. And we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. And we are back with the next set of games. Thank you to everyone for being so patient. As we took a very quick break, wasn't that long. So thanks for being patient anyway. But we've got Anna Rudolph all chocolated up, right?
I still
So
follow the
you're
last
all
piece of chocolate.
you've got all the chocolate that you needed to make sure that we could get through this day with nobody harmed. And we've got a million different great games to look at. We've been talking about Jeffrey Xiong helping the Dallas Destiny, not Dallas Stars. I don't know how somebody was calling them the Dallas Stars. I just started reading chat and somebody's been calling them the Dallas Stars, but no more. They're now the Dallas Destiny from here on out.
Well, the logo looks like a star, so maybe that's why.
I and you know what? There's an NHL team, the Dallas Stars. So I literally just like saw the star, said Dallas Stars, and that was it. Anyway, the game between Fabiano Caruana and Jeffrey Xiong is going to be a big one. Speaking of the Dallas Destiny, because they are in first place right now, Battle Royale week here on the Pro Chess League. Thank you for being here. What that means for all of you is that unlike the normal Pro Chess League format where every board on every team plays each other, it's a round robin team versus team. Here, rather than a round robin of team versus team, it's a round robin of the top of every board versus every board. So that means we have players from the Atlantic playing players from the Pacific. We have all kinds of matchups happening that we don't normally get to see. Compare it to sort of interleague play, if you will, if you're a baseball fan there. Just a slightly different format that gives us a lot of interesting things to talk about. All the board threes and board fours you saw there, that's who's playing for board ones and board two. We already had Caruana and Nakamura throw down. They drew their game, but we still have a ton of exciting matchups left, including what you see, as I said, Jeffrey Xiong versus Fabiano Caruana. So I think this is a game we definitely have to give a lot of time to right here, Anna, just because it's the Destiny and the Bishops are leading the format here today. So let's make sure we follow Caruana's game with Jeffrey Xiong here closely.
Sure, it's a very instructive middle game position, typical for this variation of the Sicilian defense, the Taimano variation. And I'm pretty sure that Fabiano is still in his preparation. He hasn't used much time. And I like these kind of positions for white. I know I'm a little bit biased because, you see the queen and the king side, the bishop is there too on g5. But it's not so easy to attack. So even though there's no knight on f6, black's position is quite safe.
Right.
Bishop back to e3. That's usually in order to regroup his pieces. Sometimes he can go for f4, then place the bishop on d4, put pressure on the g7 pawn. But it's not that easy to attack, even though the queen is on the king's side.
Yeah, and Jeffrey playing really quickly here. I think he's comfortable in this structure. I liked what you highlighted, that yes, we had this queen on the king's side, but as you said, there wasn't really any concrete threats despite black not having the knight on f6. And now, I mean, in the current position with the queen on h5, something feels very sort of superficial about white's position here, right? I mean, this just feels weird with the queen on h5. Black can play bishop f4. Maybe black can play rook to d8 to try to over-support d5 so that you might get e5 or c5 at some point, right? Feels like white is going to have to prove something here. I actually like Jeffrey's opening here a lot.
Yeah. At the beginning, I thought that Fabiano still knows what he's doing, but maybe he's just playing very quickly. I'm not sure that this is still so good for white, actually. I like knight f4 and bishop f4, both moves.
Yep.
And black doesn't seem to have any problem in this position.
Well, you mentioned Fabiano playing very quickly. For those of you who may just be joining us, one of the key storylines to Caruana's game with Nakamura was that he played very, very fast and was not under time pressure despite playing Hikaru, who's known for doing that to people. And ultimately, when he was worse in that game, I think the time really paid off, that he wasn't worse and down on the clock, right on it. And so here, Fabiano making a concerted effort to play some faster chess than maybe he has the reputation for. Again, I know it's maybe I don't always feel that it's a deserved storyline that Fabiano is not the best rapid player, but pretty well documented what happened at the World Championship, and that rapid and blitz hasn't always been his best time control. So when he's leading the Archbishops right now in second place in Battle Royale and playing quickly, it just makes you feel like he's making a concerted effort to change that point of view, right?
Yeah, I agree. And yet he isn't having his best day today, Fabiano. In terms of the number of points he has scored, it's not bad, but the positions we have seen in Fabiano's games were quite suspicious. Sometimes he saved inferior positions.
He's had a
Of
few
course,
suspicious
that's
positions, not just because he played the
yeah.
French one time, right? Not just because of that. So, but
Well, I'll pretend I didn't hear that.
yeah,
But bishop c1 is a nice move because the b2 pawn was in the air, and you don't want to push b3. That would weaken the dark squares, and the c3 knight after bishop b4 could be problematic, this pin,
yep.
or bishop
Highlighting
e5.
that right now.
So I like bishop c1. Sometimes you see that the bishop can be just as active from the back rank as on another square, and it opens also the e5 for the rook. Bishop e5 anyway. Well, this I'm not so sure about. Without b3, I don't know if it's that
Yeah, especially
important.
because are you really intending to take on c3 if you're Zhang and give up the bishop pair like that? I mean, if
Mm,
I'm Fabiano, I'm thinking about playing f4 and kind of
yeah.
calling his bluff if he's going to give
Mm.
up the dark square bishop. Okay, I understand there's obviously dangers of pushing the f pawn and it opens up your own king, but the dark square bishop might be super valuable. Although Fabiano points out that there was another problem here, which is like, hey, a6 pawn. I'm telling you, bishops are like ninjas, man. They just quickly jump. You don't even see where they are, and then they're right on top of you, just like a ninja. It's just like white just steals that pawn, and even grandmasters, I think, can blunder things like that in rapid. I wonder if Zhang just missed that the a6 pawn was hanging.
He could have missed it because of the bishops hiding on the back rank.
Right.
Then,
So
then he pointed out something new that you can learn for your games. Hide the bishops on the back rank, and your opponent may blunder because
right,
they can't see
like
the power of these bishops.
ninjas are sneaky. Um,
Yeah, totally. Ninjas. Now, this is a very nice position for white. It's a pawn up, and the c4 square is a potential outpost for white pieces. He still needs to regroup his pieces, and black has more space in the center, the b file. There's certain ways to compensate for the pawn, but yeah, I think it was just a blunder.
I was just gonna say, well, and Zhang I think this kind of tells us he knows the position might be slipping. F5 is a super risky move, double-edged move to open up your own king and the light squares. I mean, Anna just pointed out that bishop c4 is a move that's coming, and it's an outpost square, and now it has a purpose. It's hitting the e6 pawn with check. So I think that F5 is I don't want to. It's not a desperate move, but it's definitely something that grandmasters will do. They don't, when they're losing, ever just go quietly into the night, right? They would much rather try to do something dynamic, see if they can mix it up. And indeed, he played this move f5, but Fabiano played bishop c4, and after queen c6 has quickly played knight f3. So something tells me this could be, as much as there was hype, Caruana versus Zhang. Zhang's been leading the Dallas Destiny. Caruana with the bishops. I think Fabiano's about to win a very quick game. The threat of knight g5 is a real problem.
Yes, I think this position should collapse for black because of the weakness on the e6
Yeah.
square. And also, it's already a pawn up for white. He's about to win a second pawn. Knight g5 will threaten not just the e6 pawn, but mate on h7. So yeah, Jeffrey, he had a really good position after the opening, but he may have just
Yep.
blundered his
Yeah, I think he was fine, and then I
pawn.
think he just completely chose the wrong plan and blundered the a6 pawn, and then got desperate, and now this one may end very quickly, which would be a huge victory for the bishops, who, amongst the top teams coming in to the standings, at least the teams that we have here, right? The New York Marshals are right there amongst the top of the Atlantic, but not playing today. But if you compare the bishops and the chess bras, right? Obviously, the bishops are really in a position to take the lead in the Atlantic Division and maybe not look back if they can win today.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. So this is, of course, crucial for the archbishops. And once again, we see some of these teams at the bottom, especially the chess bras. I didn't expect the chess bras to do so poorly in today's battle royale because they have won 3 out of 3 matches,
Yep.
beating the St. Louis Archbishops. A very impressive start for the chess bras. But today they are going to lose plenty of points because of the battle royale system. So there's actually more points up for grab today than in a normal match, and that's probably the end of their first place. Of course, the Pro Chess League is still just beginning. Don't worry if you're a chess bar fan, but the standings will change because of the poor situation of the bras today.
Yeah, and I'm appearing one of the games by the chess bros here if we want to check over and see how Eric Hansen is doing, the most well-known of the chess bras with the white pieces here against Cristobal Henriquez, which, again, Cristobal's played well, I think, today for the Blizzard, who we haven't given a lot of love to in terms of mentioning their team. We've covered a lot of John Bartholomew and Andrew Tang's action, but the Blizzard are also right there. Despite not being amongst the leaders in the Atlantic Division, they might be turning around their fates here with a big score here. So I believe that we should give a little bit of time to that. The other game's still going here, so you've got Hansen versus Cristobal Henriquez as far as Blizzard versus Chessbra action. We've also got John Bartholomew, Finzo 905, taking on Sean Lemieux, who is also of the chess. So we have another Blizzard versus Chessbra battle here, with going to be kind of a crazy one with the kings on opposite sides of the board. Here I definitely like Black's chances, though. Seems to have a big center and a head in the attack.
Yeah, those are always the features I love in a position. So more space, very well centered, active pieces. I think this should be a very nice position for Black. Right now, it's even Black to move, so that makes things even better. How shall he proceed? Because it's opposite side castling, I would love to be able to push the king side pawn. So if h6, g5, g4, f3 could happen very quickly, I think that is a good plan for Black. But there could be other moves as well to consider.
Sorry about that. Got quickly distracted. If we go back to Xiong's game versus Caruana, he did indeed get the knight to g5, but it's not over yet. Xiong is defending in a really creative way, although now you start looking for knockout blows if possible, if you're white. Something feels very fishy here. I mean, even if you take on e6, if the knight takes, you have queen takes h7, if takes and rook takes. Is there any way to take f5 after that, gaining a tempo on the rook, unleashing the other threat on e5? Looks like there could be something very dangerous here, but certainly if there is, Fabiano will find it as he's taking his time now.
Yeah, he still has 5 minutes on the clock, more than Jeffrey. This is a critical moment, so it's, of course, Fabian knows that investing time in this position is crucial because he may be just winning on the spot with some tactics. So can he capture on f5? Can he capture on e6 because of the h7 hanging pawn? Okay, he just says b3. I'm protecting the bishop, and then next move there will be some capture.
Yeah,
something
feels a little bit anticlimactic there with b3, right?
Yeah.
You're not quite going for.
I was expecting a sacrifice.
Yeah, but I guess b3 makes a lot of sense because you still have a ton of pressure even if Black sacrifices the exchange. And one tactic I was sort of spying, but just to point out for everybody, if you're thinking that somehow Black has rook h6 trapping the queen, that is not possible. That would fail to queen f7, and then Bob's your uncle there on f8. So that's not possible. That means that this exchange sacrifice is really much more defensive than it is aggressive by Xiong to get rid of this really, really obnoxious bishop on the light square. So still feels like Fabiano is in control.
Yeah, but the question is there something concrete now, or will he just play knight h3? Because I would suspect that there should be something concrete. For instance, e takes f5, and the bishop too is hanging on e5, not just the knight on g5. If he goes back to h3, I've been expecting a sacrifice in the past couple of moves, so that would be a little bit of a disappointment to me if there's no sacrifice in the position. And usually I'm not the one looking for tactical blows, but Sopiko. So I'm completely taking on her role right now.
Yeah.
And I hope that knight h3, no.
No, I know. He goes back and plays the move you would have played, right? Sopiko would have sacrificed.
Yeah, I know. That's totally me, but I don't think the position needed this kind of move.
I agree, and I think this is going to get a little bit trickier than first looks. I mean, obviously the exchange sack, as we said, was defensive, but without a concrete breakthrough for white, I mean, what's going on here, right? You've got weak pawn, weak pawn, weak pawn. You've got the bishop on this diagonal. Fabiano needs to come up with something to get the rooks going, right? That's the advantage you have, the two rooks being up the exchange. It's very dangerous to ever play things like f4 and e5, because you permanently open up this bishop on h1, which white may have to do and may be able to do at some point, but it's very risky because this bishop on a8, as we said, bishops are ninjas, kind of just waiting in the dark here to pounce. Could be very, very hard for Fabi to convert this one cleanly. And now they're both going to be under 3 minutes very soon.
Yeah, it's 3 minutes for both players. Queen takes c2 is on the board, so that's another pawn for black. The c4 and the a2 pawns are still hanging. There's a d protected pass pawn now. Question is if there's something concrete with queen e8, and it is played by Fabiano because the a8 bishop is problematic. There's only one square for the bishop, bishop to b7, or queen takes a2, protect the bishop. So some back rank issues. It's a pin and the a8 bishop is not well placed. I wonder if he can take on a2 simply to defend the bishop. Feels a little awkward if the c1 bishop moves away, then white is threatening rook a1, winning bishop on a8. Yeah, it makes me wonder if it's possible to take the pawn or not. Is there time for that?
It would be exciting. Okay, he does it. Now Fabi wants to do exactly what you said, get the rook to a1 and provide the skewer. I don't know. I mean, again, I know that white should just be better here because of the material, and I'm being very silent. I know it's shocking you, right, that I'm not talking not talking so much, but I'm calculating this, and again, I understand that white is up material should be better, but I just have a really hard time finding the best moves here. Okay, Fabi's going to teach me what to do. The knight comes to d3.
So knight d3, double attack. Now,
right,
if
makes
bishop
sense.
d6,
I have to back up the bishop, I think.
Oh wait, bishop d6, e5, then there's bishop takes f3.
Yeah, and then there's rook d2.
Maybe rook d2. Rook d2. It's not over till it's over. Oh, so many tactical motives in this position.
So many crazy things, but that is a key line there that Anna was saying, is that bishop d6 to guard the c5 pawn is not possible, because it looks like e5 by Fabiano, bishop f3, rook d2 will both defend the mate, hit the queen, and therefore win a whole bunch of material in the process. So if bishop d6 is not possible, that means what are you doing? Putting the bishop on c7? Okay, he does it, but c5's falling. And when c5 falls, really, on the issue is the knight's coming from c5 to d7, right, where it hits f8 and hits f6. So it's not even so much the pawn as it is that white is breaking through. Bishop f4 is a nice move, dual threat, right? Hitting c7, and now you have this skewer that you mentioned earlier, rook a1 coming.
Yeah, it's a beautiful move, the double threat. If bishop takes f4, can he... No, if bishop takes f4, rook a1, maybe it's a bit too much. But he can just simply take back on 4 and then still rook a1 is a big threat. I think that Fabiano is once again in the driver's seat. Before it was quite a complex position, and maybe he missed the right moment to sacrifice when he had this attacking position earlier on. But now, once again, I think that he is winning this game. Oh, yeah. Was f takes e4?
I think he'll probably just take right back. Probably not necessary to come up with anything.
Yeah, bishop takes c7 and e takes d3, and the f3 pawn is in the air, so there's some tactics still. But f takes e4, as Dennis said, why not just take back? And the same issue, rook a1, bishop takes c7. How do you prevent everything here for black? Jeffrey's down to 40 seconds, and his position is really difficult.
Down to 40 seconds and down on the down in the position against Fabiano Caruana. Sounds fun. Eric Hansen did get a big win as white for the Chess Bras. So for those of you seeing them get on the scoreboard there, I'll show that quickly on the analysis board. Eric Hansen wins by resignation against his opponent Cristobal Henriquez. So big win there. Unfortunately, Grandmaster Sam Shanklin lost again, this time to Ichirizaga, as we've said, is one of the more consistent, less-known names to the OTB over the board chess community, but very, very strong in all these online formats. And so Ichirizaga beating Sam Shanklin, the difficult day for the Mechanics top board continues there.
Yeah, that's a really tough day for Sam Shanklin. He has lost almost all his games, if not every game. I don't know if he has scored. Has he scored any points today? Because we have only lost the game.
I don't think so. I think he's drawn a game.
0 out of 6? Is that even possible?
Is he 0-6?
I mean, if someone
I don't
can
know.
confirm it,
I'm looking
that
around
would
as if
be
somebody in this room is
crazy.
going to tell me the answer
Okay,
to that. No,
maybe we
okay.
missed
I have no idea.
maybe
Shanklin.
we missed the game that he drew, but every game that we analyzed together, he lost all those games.
I feel like maybe he
Almost,
drew a game while we weren't looking. I don't
yeah,
know.
maybe,
Maybe
but
I
still.
want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but if he's posting a donut right now, that's a problem. 1.5, yeah. So he did. I think he did get a game
Okay.
and a draw. Actually, all right.
Well, it's
Um,
better than zero, but still, 1.5 out of 6.
well,
Oh,
Fabiano is doing work right now. It looks like Xiong's destiny was to lose to the bishop's top board. No, nothing. Okay, destiny. Okay, yep.
not yet.
Moving on.
Not
The
listening.
Okay, it looks like Fabiano's going to win this game, and the Dallas Destiny top board will fall. But there's a ton of other games about to finish. Remind everybody, if you want to go to chess.com and just follow the games yourself, we apologize if we are not covering the game that you want to see. But Caruana's going to get this one, so let's quickly jump over to Fidel Corrales versus Arabic Falcon, Salim Saleh, because this is a game with only 7 seconds on the clock for black. And maybe we're about to catch the ending, unfortunately. I didn't mean to provide the commentator's curse, Anna, but I did it again.
Oh no. Oh no.
Well, wait. Did he just miss queen take? He just missed mate in 2. Queen takes g6 and queen
Yeah.
g7 was mate in 2.
Wow.
But okay. I guess it
The
does the
commentator's
trick.
curse.
He did the trick. The next game that we're going to jump to, Anna, is John Bartholomew versus Jean Rodrigue Lemieux, because we also have another time scramble.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to
A4.
win this?
Whoa.
Lemieux's
Who
the
is
one up
getting
on the
mated?
clock, but look he just played a4. He just forced Bartholomew's king into the mating net. Like he's helping to walk that king up the board to checkmate the white king. It's crazy.
Yeah, this position is madness. It is an exchange up for white, but black has a piece and tons of pawns. Is it like how many? 4 pawns, a knight and 4 pawns. That is worth more than the rook. And now it's a mating net around the white king, and the black king is pretty safe on c4. And that is thanks to this d4 knight. So there's no check on e6. There was a rook c2 check because of the pin on the fourth rank, but there's nothing more. Now queen c4 check. And there was the winning move. King takes a4 calmly. And now back to b5. Wow. There has to be something with knight b3. No, not yet. Queen f5 check. Oh, I like g5. That's a cool move. He just says, I have time for h5, g4 and win the game. And then John Bartholomew wins on time. But the position, I think this position should be just winning for black because it is a knight, and I'm very bad at math. A knight and 4 pawns, but h5, g4 is coming, 2 connected pass pawns running on the king side, and white doesn't have any checks except for a few like queen e8 check, but then the king will hide. So yeah, this is just a desperate position.
Sorry, involved in something here.
Sure.
And I'm letting you
We
rock
have
it.
full
Your
round
commentary is
two,
amazing, and
so
I'm just distracted with some behind the scenes stuff right now. But
today there's one more round
there
in
she
our
is.
group, but
We should have like a little thing that says Danny's busy, or like a monkey dancing on my face.
am I the only commentator now? Well, I'm happy to take over. Apologies if my sound is cutting out sometimes. I don't do it on purpose. I was sure that the internet was working perfectly until I started the broadcast. So apologies for next time. It has to be better. I'm trying my best. I'm not at home. I'm in the other part of the world. I'm in Chile, and that's a bit far from my usual home, that is Spain. Progress. Thank you guys. Take over. I was just going to say that today, this is group 1. We have one more round in group 1, but after our show is done with Danny Ranch, the next group will start, and it's none other than Alexandra Botes and Robert Hess covering the next stage of the Pro Chess League Battle Royale. So don't go anywhere, because, hey, it's all about the Pro Chess League today. Remember that the top players are playing today. Every team has brought their best lineup because there's more at stake, more points up for grab. And I wish I could move the board too and such, but I don't have the control over the board. So I will need Danny to move the mouse. I can do the talking, I can dance, I can try to sing, but I cannot move the pieces. So I will need Mr. Wrench to come back and move the board. In the meantime, let me know in the chat, which teams are you supporting? Shout out to, by the way, 4,550 of you. When did we get so crowded in here? 4,574 of you right now. Shout out to everyone. Thank you for tuning in for today's Pro Chess League broadcast. It is the Battle Royale, a new format similar to the Super Saturday, Super Sunday that you might know from earlier seasons, but there's a twist on it. More points up for grab, different system. Today, board one face board one players only, board two versus board two, board three versus board three, and board four versus four. That's why we have 7 rounds with a different time control, shorter time control. But you see Fabiano Caruana, Hikaru Nakamura, Shakhriyar Xiong, Sam Shankland. It's all such a stacked lineup. I'm forgetting names. I have all these papers here to cheat a little bit. Sergei Movsesyan is here. Fidel Corrales, Eduardo Iturrizaga. Salam Salah has made his debut for the Chess Bras on the top board of the Chess Bras. It didn't go so well for the Chess Bras. As you can see, they are only on 7.5 points, which is last place. If the Chess Bras finish on last place, they are not getting any extra points. So it's 0 plus the 7.5 points. I'm gonna tell you the system. We have a graphic for that, which I cannot bring up. But anyway, the top finisher of today will get 24 points plus the score that you see next to their name. The bottom finisher of today will get 0 points, 0. Just like the bagel emote Robert has on chess.com, the bagel emote, 0. That goes for the Chess Bars. Unfortunately, if they finish at the bottom of the standing today, 0 plus 7.5. I'm really bad at maths. Oh, thank you so much. Aaron is with me. So we do have a producer with me. I'm not completely alone. Thank you so much, Aaron. Shout out to our producer, Studio C. 0 points for the Chess Bras if they don't come back in the last round. Oh my, John is here with us. Shout out to my favorite co-streamer, John Urschel. We do have our shows every Friday. Urschel Learns Chess, and John is a renowned mathematician, former NFL player. He is a legend, and he knows that I can't add up 2 numbers. Oh, look who is back! Look who's back! Yay!
Hey there.
Danny Wrench.
Hey
Hello.
there.
Hello.
First of all, that was phenomenal. I took a quick nap. I grabbed a bagel. Everything
you got the bagel.
Everything went swimmingly.
Oh.
There are 0 things for anyone to be worried about or speculate about or anything. All I know is we're going to take our last quick break of the day. Do not go anywhere. Anna and I will be right back with the commentary for the final round of Battle Royale here with a tie atop the standings with the Destiny and the Archbishop. So it should be a very close finish down the stretch. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we are back. I need a lot of breaks. I already took one break. Anna did all the work, and then we need another break, and I see the chat making fun of me for it. But, okay. All that matters is the last round of games are getting underway. Anna, I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I have seen many bagels in the chat, and unfortunately, the chess bros are getting a bagel if they finish at the bottom of the standings. It's 0 points for the bottom team in today's Royal Battle. So that is Battle Royal Battle. I'm confusing the two names, but it is a very sad finish for the chess bros, who have won their first 3 matches, beating the St. Louis Archbishops last week, and today it is 0 points plus 7.5 if they don't come back now in the last round.
And the chances of a comeback based on how it's been going today don't seem very high, but either way, what we know is we will have 2 teams that are right there at the top of the standings to battle it out. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't, it's not our job to root for anything, but I'm definitely surprised and intrigued by how this destiny, not the stars. Now my producer's making it even harder on me with the image that's right in front of my face. Sorry, inside production jokes. But the St. Louis Archbishops and the Dallas Destiny are tied atop the standings, and the games are getting underway here in just a moment. So let's give a shout out to Aaron. He's producing things.
Shout out to Aaron, Studio C.
Making it happen, Captain, right there. There he is. He's just doing what he does. He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know where he is right now. Like, he literally just wandered off the street and like, will you just sit down and help me with this? And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Anyway, so thanks to everybody that's been here all day, and stick with us here for the last round of play. Remember, right after Anna and I, we will hand things over to Grandmaster Robert Hess and Alexandra Botez, who will have the call for the late portion of today's show. Also, just haven't given a lot of love to all the bits coming our way. Thank you, Cash Menk, for spending cash. You're like a cash monk. I don't even know. I don't know why I said that. You're just awesome. You're just awesome. And we just had another bit shower there from somebody. Sorry I missed your name. But, okay. Games are getting underway.
Last round and the last chance for the chess bros to come back and not finish at the bottom of the standings. I love, by the way, John's new name for the competition, Butter Royale. So it's bagels in the Butter Royale. I love it. I'm getting hungry too.
One of the biggest...
Anyway, last round.
I thought you had chocolate. I thought we talked about this.
I know, chocolate. But sometimes I eat even normal food, not only chocolate.
Man,
like I have eaten half of the.
I literally thought you survived on a diet of chocolate and smiles. That was literally what they told me. Anna Rudolph survives on chocolate and smiles. So,
I wish.
All right, we have Jeffrey Xiong taking on Hikaru Nakamura, so that is certainly a big one to cover. We have that on both the analysis and the main board. We also have Arabic Falcon throwing down against Fabiano Caruana. That is Salim Saleh versus Fabiano. So. A Bishop versus Chess Bra battle there, which has been one of the biggest storylines of the season so far. Today, not as competitive in regards to the Chess Bras, unfortunately for them, but the season is not even halfway through, and we are sure they will rebound. So many other games to highlight. Again, if you want to follow your own adventure, just go to chess.com's live server and choose which game you want to look at. But Anna, if you see anything else, go ahead and shout out. The last one I'm going to pull up and mention is Vara Kobian against Eric Hansen. We do have all the chess bras throwing down against the Bishops in this round, and so even though, again, in the Atlantic Division, that was a huge storyline today, right now the Bishops are heading, trying to really just hold this one here. Maybe a little bit of revenge. They lost to the Chess Bras last week, but if they beat them here in the last round of play of the Battle Royale, they will clinch the win.
Yeah, it's certainly, I think, the match that we should focus on. The Archbishops playing for the first place is 24 points for the winner and $500 in cash. So the difference between the Archbishops or the Dallas Destiny winning today is 4 points. It's 24 points for the first and 20 points for the second. They are tying at the moment, but last round will decide whether it's the Archbishops or the Destiny that gets the 24 points. And for the Chess Bras, they gotta avoid the bagel. The bagel. Robert is here. Shout out to Grandmaster Robert Hess. Avoid the bagel.
Avoid the bagel. Yeah, avoid the bagel. Put the bagel down, Robert. Put the bagel down and walk away. Now, all right. Well, we're going to stay tuned to as many of these games as we can. One, because the bishops are right there atop the standings, although not anymore because we already had one very quick draw taken. The Dallas Destiny already have one game in the books here in this round, a very, very fast result. I don't know if that'll prove to be a good strategy or not for the Destiny, but they do have a lot of work cut out for them regardless, and none probably harder than Jeffrey Zhang's task against Hikaru Nakamura here. So maybe let's take a look at this one and see what's happening in this opening. I do like Xiong's starting position here.
Yes, it was a Sicilian with bishop b5 check. It's become quite popular, the Rossolimo and bishop b5 check, the two. And now after f4, e takes f4, bishop takes f4. I sort of like the semi-open f5. I'm a little concerned about the d4 square. I'm the kind of person that looks at weak squares and I'm like, oh my, that's a weak spot. But black is undeveloped at the moment, so I think that white's initiative should give him the edge. Having said that, Hikaru's position is pretty solid.
After the move queen d7, though, how are you dealing with the threat of e5? And here he plays it. Queen d7 surprised me because it took away the only natural retweeting square for the knight. I just said retweeting square, which either sounds like I have a speech impediment or I'm talking about Twitter. Boom. Double speech impediment. Retweeting. Anyway, the queen d7 move took away the retweeting square, and that has actually put Hikaru in a. I don't like this position at all anymore for black. I think that the knight coming to d6, you're even in a position where you can bust through with things like b4. I know it's weird to suggest, but it feels like queen d7 was a blunder, honestly.
Yeah, and we usually don't criticize Hikaru because we love Hikaru, but we don't understand why he played queen d7, taking away the only square that the knight had. The only good one, because you don't want to go back to g8, and this is what happened. Now bishop g5, it's only been 14 moves, but I just love white's position here.
Yeah, bishop g5, that's a little bit interesting to go the other side of the board, because I think his idea is to play queen f3 and take advantage of the backward pawn, but I still believe that just busting through on the queen side here, where black is way down in development, makes you think that from a practical point of view, Jeffrey is really going to be holding all the cards in this one. I mean, you could. Okay, maybe you can't. I wanted to say queen f3 anyway and meet a move like queen takes d3 with just bishop back to e3, stop the queen trade. You're not going to keep taking pawns and opening up lines to the king, and at some point, I'm going to either use the d file. Very, very dangerous position here for black, being down so much in development and having the potentially open king.
Yeah, I would be very scared if I had to play this position as black. Hikaru, I don't know how he is in this moment because he's also streaming. So if you guys are watching his stream, please let us know how is Hikaru's mood. I would be worried. Queen takes d3 is the threat of black, but apart from that, all his king side is undeveloped. Even if he wins the d pawn, I will still pick white. Initiative, very active pieces, and the king on c8 is gonna suffer.
It looks like they have a bright destiny.
I love it.
Thank you, Blue Wizard, for that awkward pun. Blue Wizard seems like he could rival me today in the Chess TV chat for the ridiculous dad jokes and awkward puns. So thank you, Blue Wizard, for bringing the awkwardness. All right, queen to a4. Again, I mean, from a practical perspective, regardless of whether this was the most accurate, this is the move I was calling for earlier. Queen a4, b4, like just go for it over here.
Oh, we have an update on how is Hikaru doing. He is taking yet another bathroom break.
Hikaru's taking another bathroom break. Well, maybe that's something also to look into. You know, he's getting a little bit older. We all struggle with different things. I don't know. I mean, I maybe that's another issue on the day. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Okay, if you're just joining us, you've missed quite the day, but don't go anywhere. The Pro Chess League still has hours and hours left. Anna and I are bringing this thing to a close in a very exciting finish here between the Bishops and the Destiny. But we also have Grandmaster Robert Hess, Alexander Botez, and a whole lot of people still here watching the matches. So, all right, and look at this. Knight h6 to be played. Whoa, there's no way Hikaru saw rook takes f7 coming.
Whoa.
This is not a good finish on the day, and it may indeed be fate for the Destiny to win the first ever Battle Royale.
Whew.
Look at this move. Rook takes f7. The point is after trade, queen e8 comes with check, followed by winning the rook with check, and combine the fact that white is, clearly on the attack. White here has the material and the compensation. Black's pieces being horribly underdeveloped. So, in fact, so much so that Hikaru just kind of tucks his tail between his legs and just lets him get that f7 pawn. Doesn't even do anything. Just plays bishop e7. But I think now there's several good moves for white. You could, if you want to just be really simple, you could bring the rook back to f3 to make sure you hold the d3 pawn. Knight d6 check has to be in the air because if knight d6, bishop takes, don't I have queen takes d7?
Yeah, and mate on b7. So 96, the king has to move. But where do you move the king? I mean, the king has to be defending the d7 rook.
Yeah, if knight d6, the king has to go to either c7 or d8, and
Ooh.
both run into queen a5 check. And rook
This is
e7
looking
fails to rook.
so
I
bad.
think this
Knight
is just
d6 is on the
completely
board, king
over.
c7. Whoa.
And now queen a5 check. Oh,
Queen
wow, what a
a5.
shocking finish here if Xiong just takes down Hikaru so
Yeah,
quickly.
it does look like a white is doing very well. It should be a winning position, but what is the final blow? Where is the final blow here? Queen a5. Maybe then the king would have gone back to b8 because we want to keep an eye on this d7 rook and give a check at the same time. But how do you do that? There's no such move yet. Bringing the rook is a good idea. Doubling rooks on the f5. That was the last piece that was not doing anything. Queen takes b2. I don't think this is an issue because you don't really count the pawns. You want to give mate here.
Honestly, taking b2 is more useful from a defensive perspective because the queen can now come back to b6. I think. I was saying queen b6 unless there's some weird tactic. Maybe there is a weird tactic on queen to b6 that Hikaru didn't like. Couldn't calculate it fast enough, but okay.
King goes back to b8, and now where's the
Yeah,
fall?
I mean, he's surviving right now. Somehow there's no knockout despite the dominant knight on d6, the rook on the 7th rank.
Maybe this is not the